broadcasting to you live from the Memphis Chess Club. And we've also got Jonathan Beatty with us from the Memphis Chess Club, and Emily Nelson will be joining us here in a minute from DeSoto County Schools. And we are here watching and commentating on the DeSoto County Schools High School Championship, which is about to start in just a couple minutes. And it looks like we have got 38 high school students entered into the tournament so far, although we may still get a few last minute joiners. So yeah, this is an exciting event that we're going to be watching here. This tournament has been going on for many years, but due to exceptional circumstances this year, we are doing it online. So it's a brave new world. But it should be a lot of fun. And I'm glad we were able to figure out a way to keep it going online. So, hey, Emily, how's it going? Can you see and hear me all right?
I can hear you. I don't see you.
Oh, okay.
That's because I'm currently sharing my screen so that you guys can see the tournament.
That's okay. That's okay. I don't.
Jonathan, thank you so much. And Alex, thank you for doing this for our kids. I'm sorry that our students haven't all chimed in as they're supposed to, but you're giving them an experience they've never had before.
We've still got a lot of them. 38 is still pretty good. So,
well, we ought to have twice that, really.
Well, maybe
so coaches, if you're listening to me, please make sure that your students have followed those directions that we sent step by step, because if they haven't, they are not automatically joining the tournament and they're going to miss round one.
We just got 39, 40, 20 seconds before the round starts. This is 43. This is extremely typical of a chess tournament. Don't worry about it.
Everybody's joining at the last second.
44.
Coaches, I want to say, even if your students miss round one, encourage them to go ahead and participate. That if they have a great 4 rounds, that could be very important to your team.
Okay, we have begun the first round, and
only 6 games because people aren't actually sitting at the board.
Well, are you sure that
it's 22? Sorry.
Yeah, right. I think it only shows the top there at the bottom, John.
You're right.
So that means actually, if there's 22 games, that means everybody is paired, right?
Right.
Okay, so we've started the first round, and we've got 44 players so far, although some people may still join late, which is fine. And so the top game that we're looking at right now, this player who's playing white, whose handle is Dog Boy Apples, that is Preston Reefers, who is a student at DeSoto Central High School. And then the player playing black, Joshua Howard, I will look up and see what school he goes to. It looks like he goes to Olive Branch High School. I've got my little cheat sheet here in front of me with everybody's name and username and school. So the time control that we are playing today is 25 minutes for each side with a 5-second bonus per move. So after each move, you get 5 seconds added on back to your time. So it's different than the 5-second delay that a lot of in-person tournaments use, and that probably a lot of these kids are used to. But it's not really possible to do a delay in online games. And so that's why we use increment instead. Increment is the same as bonus. That just means the time gets added back on. A good thing about the increment compared to the delay is that with the increment time added back on, that means that you can actually build up your time and increase your time. So like if you get down to 10 seconds and then you get 5 seconds added back on, then you make another, you get another 5 seconds added back on, and suddenly you have 20 seconds. So you can kind of dig yourself out of a hole in terms of your clock with increment. So that's why it's more common for online games to use increment. Person tournaments also use increment these days. For example, here at the Memphis Chess Club, a lot of the tournaments that we use, we've switched to using increment instead of delay. So anyway, it's just new thing that the students playing in the tournament will be experiencing today. I'm sure that many of these students are playing for the first time in an online tournament.
Yes, you'd
I
like
mean,
that.
I'm sure that that's true. So yeah, hopefully it's a fun new experience for them. The Memphis Chess Club runs several online tournaments, free online tournaments here on Chess each week. And we have been since March or April, actually. So yeah, we're kind of used to how it goes in an online tournament. But hopefully these kids who are participating today for the first time in an online tournament have a good time, want to do more of it, at least until in-person tournaments become more common again, which is hopefully soon. Jonathan, how's everything sound and look so far?
Pretty good. A little bit of background noise. Pretty typical for Zoom calls. Looks like Black just made a mistake and dropped a piece. So.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I should be actually commentating on this game. Yeah, Jonathan pointed out something good, which is that the player playing Black here in this game that we're watching, the top game in the tournament in this first round, he lost a piece. This Joshua Howard player from Olive Branch High School. And so that means that White, Preston Reefers, is now up a piece, and he's also up a pawn. So when I say a piece, I mean that White has an extra bishop here. So usually when I just refer to a piece, I'm talking about a bishop or a knight. And then if I were talking about a pawn, I would just say a pawn. And if I'm talking about, a queen or a rook, I would just say those specifically. Right, that's good, Jonathan. If you guys look below White's clock, it actually shows what White has that's extra. So it sort of gives you a little cheat sheet for the material balance here. So yeah, White has an extra bishop and an extra pawn. And so the bishop is worth 3 points and the pawn is worth 1 point. So that's why it says that White is +4 next to the material here, because an extra bishop and an extra pawn means that White has an extra 4 points of material. So, so yeah, if Preston can do a careful job of keeping his extra bishop and his extra pawn, that's likely to end up being a winning advantage for him. But if he makes a mistake and loses some of that back, then it won't be so clear. So yeah, the game is definitely not over. He's got more work to do in order to seal the deal.
Yeah, if I'm evaluating correctly, Black should be able to get a pawn back here, but that's just going to trade into a losing endgame, right? Like the knight takes and then c2 pawn, or...
Yeah, I agree. But he could maybe even take it with his rook too, right? So, okay. I've also noticed in this game that they've played 15 moves, and Preston playing White has not really used very much time on his clock, whereas Joshua playing Black has used more time, right? So he's used a few minutes, and Preston has only used a few seconds, like less than a minute.
Right.
So that's another thing that you kind of have to get used to when you're playing, well, when you're playing with the clock generally, but especially when you're playing online, how fast or slow do you play? It's something that you kind of have to get the hang of. And I think a lot of players end up playing too quickly in their first tournament or in their first online tournament because, they just see the clock running or they hear the clock ticking and they just sort of get nervous and they just try to play quickly. But in a tournament like this, where you have plenty of time to think, you don't want to play too quickly because you can sort of handicap yourself. If you're playing quickly, then you may not be playing as well as you could if you were really taking your time. So, yeah, everybody's just going to kind of have to get the hang of that. We've got 5 rounds today. So we're just in the first game. And depending on how long each round takes, on average, they'll probably take an hour each. And there's 5 games, so it's going to be a long tournament, right? 5 hours overall, approximately. We started right at 9:15, so it'll probably end something like 2:15. There's going to be a 5-minute break in between each round, but basically these online tournaments on Lichess, each round starts automatically. So even though I'm the tournament director, I don't decide when the rounds start. They basically just start automatically as soon as all the games from the previous round finish. So Jonathan, if we can go back and look at the tournament standings page, then we can see, like, we started off with 22 games, and then you see at the top, it says that there's 18 ongoing games. So that means that 4 games have already finished, right? So it's only been like what, less than 10 minutes. 4 games have already finished, but there's 18 games still going on. So like if all these 18 games just like magically finished, like right now, then there would be a 5-minute break and then the second round would start right away. But that's not likely to happen. In fact, the most common thing in a tournament is that most of the games finish, but then there's a few that are sort of going long. And those games that are going long in a certain round, they everybody else is just sort of waiting for them to finish for the next round to start. So that's very common in almost any tournament. That's the way it goes. So all it takes is basically one long game in a round to make the whole round last the full time. But again, that's totally fine. Taking your time, there's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, often that's the best strategy. Yeah, Jonathan, do you want to take a look at one of the games that already finished, or maybe we can just...
Sure, yeah. All of these were pretty quick. They're all queen mates. A lot of back rank mates. Well, let's grab this one, I guess.
Let's take a quick look at it from the top.
Do you want to drive, or should I?
No, you can. It's fine. We'll just make some very brief comments.
Yeah, like this, neither player is really playing in the center, which is key. Lots of non-standard pawn moves.
And Alex, in about 5 minutes, we'll be hearing from our first chess chat.
Beautiful. And who's going to be joining us?
Our first female DeSoto County chess champion, who won in 2006. And there's a very interesting story behind that, and we're very proud of her. She's now an assistant principal in Paragould, Arkansas. Her name is Morgan Wackup Taylor, and she'll be joining us shortly.
That's awesome. Wonderful. I can't wait to chat with her. And so we're going to be talking to her in just like 5 minutes here, right?
She should be joining the group in about 5 minutes.
Okay, awesome. I actually see her already on the Zoom call. So
great.
If she's joined, we can go ahead and start talking with her whenever she's ready.
Hello, Morgan. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Morgan. I wish I had a picture of you to show that beautiful little redheaded high school girl that had to defeat the team that she had grown up playing with to win the district championship. Everyone that was there that day was so proud of you. So I've already given a little bit of background information. Can you tell us about that day?
It was my first year at Lewisburg High School. I got moved from DeSoto County, Hernando High School, because of the lines where I lived literally across the street went to Hernando, and then I went to Lewisburg. So as a 10th grader, I was sent out there. My freshman year at Hernando, I did not get to be on the chess team. They had older players that were on the team instead of me. So when I went to Lewisburg, I was the oldest class there, so I got to go to the tournament. So that was cool. I got to go and play the guys that got to be on the team, and there was a lot of guys I grew up with that didn't expect me to beat them. So that was pretty good.
I think it was a shock to those young men at that time. They were a solid group of players, and they were all of you were just solid, wonderful kids to watch grow up. But you had to face down what were some very formidable opponents, and it might have been intimidating to you, but you didn't look even a little bit intimidated. Can you tell me about that?
I wasn't. I've always, I guess, been a pretty confident person. A lot of times I was the cheerleader. Was looked at as, oh, she's not going to be able to beat me when I sat down at the table. I think one of my greatest moments was when I had a pep rally after one of the chess tournaments, and I had to wear my uniform to the tournament because we had to go back and perform at school, and beating the guys in my uniform was kind of good because they weren't expecting it at all when I said checkmate. So
That's right. But that day, it's been over 10 years now. And has chess, do you still play? Do you still play?
I do. My husband actually likes to show it off kind of as a party trick with his friends, try to beat my wife at chess. He has a friend that's a pharmacist and a nurse practitioner, and they'll still to this day try to beat me. It's been 6 years strong and no one's beat me yet. So
I'm so happy, because this tournament is about exposure and exposing students to something they've never seen before, giving an opportunity to experience it, and then they've got a lifelong hobby if they want to take it further. And that's what you've done. So I'm so happy for you. Gentlemen, do you have anything you would like to ask Morgan?
Yeah, so tell me again what school you started off and then what school you transferred to when you did win the championship.
I was Hernando High School, and I went to Lewisburg High School.
And so isn't the coach there at Delman Mr. Louis Smith? Was he the coach there when you were there as well?
At Lewisburg?
Yes.
I do not think that he was the coach. I'm pretty sure we went with the gifted English teacher, and at that time it was Miss Aldridge.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, Louis Smith is a local pharmacist. You mentioned that, Morgan, and he has spent years coaching the Lewisburg team, but he probably started at the elementary level and then grew up at the players kind of grew up with that program. So you didn't, but Louis Smith was one of Mike Stewart's first students that he coached when Louis was in high school. And I know you know Mike Smith.
Yes. Mike Stewart.
Mike Stewart, yes, I'm sorry. Louis Smith and Mike Stewart, yes.
I would say, Miss Ballard at Oak Grove Elementary was the one that exposed me to chess. And then from there, I met Mike Stewart, and he took a liking to me. And were great as well. So I feel like they all played a part in shaping me. And then by the time I got to high school, it was just, I kind of played my own way. So
And a lot of the best players do. They're self-taught at a certain level.
I mean, the only reason I started playing is I have a sister that is 18 months older than me, and she got to learn to play chess and gifted before I did. And I was determined to beat her. And I played her and played her and played her until I could beat her. And then she never played again. So, but she was also Hernando gifted as well.
Well, that's a great story. That's a great story. A lot of our kids do grow up in the Spotlight program. That program doesn't own chess. We want everybody to join the high school chess teams. But a lot of them do get their first chances to play and learn the spirit of chess from wonderful people like Brenda Ballard, who was a great asset to the program at Hernando for many, many years.
Definitely. We had a student here at my school last year, and I'm an assistant principal at a 5th and 6th grade building in Paragould, Arkansas. But this kid could not be beat by anybody. And I told him, I was like, I bet I could beat you. And he's like, you can't beat me. And I was like, one day I will. So he bugged me and bugged me and bugged me. And then finally I played him and I beat him. And he just looked at me. He goes, I wasn't expecting that. And he was like, let's just keep this between us. I was like, telling them all.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. We just reconnected yesterday. I have never forgotten you, and all of the other people running the tournament that day have never forgotten you either. And the young men that you defeated to win the championship will also never forget that day. So,
I just remember I was like, oh my God. I called my mother and I was like, I think I just won this tournament. And she was like, are you sure? And I was like, I don't know. I just won all my games. And she literally left work and came speeding up to the tournament. I think it was at the arena at that time. And when she walked in, they were announcing the winner and it was me. And let me tell you, she was so excited.
I know she was. I know she was. Well, congratulations on your ongoing chess play and your wonderful career. I'm so glad that education was able to nab someone like you as a colleague. I'm very happy for that.
I love it. You know, currently going to A State, working on my doctorate in leadership. So we'll see where it takes me.
Well, you can find your way home to DeSoto County. We'd love to have great educators here that grew up here. So
Thank you.
thank you for calling us, Morgan.
One more quick question, if you don't mind, Morgan. What are some things that you feel like you personally like learned or benefited from as a person from playing chess and specifically, you know, competing in chess tournaments and taking it seriously like that?
You know, it makes you it makes you think strategically. I feel like it always makes you look a move ahead, kind of plan out what you're going to do. You know, that's kind of what type of person I am in life as well. Learning to play in tournaments, you have to learn to be able to be defeated, and you also have to learn to be able to defeat others gracefully. A lot of times as a child, it's hard to lose a game, and then it's hard to win without being boastful. So I think that was a big help.
Great, yeah, totally agree with all that. That's great. Well, yeah, like Emily said, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us for a few minutes here. Really appreciate it, and great to hear your story. You know, hope that it inspires other cheerleaders and everybody else to jump into the arena and play some chess. So
it was great. I want all young women to play. And we did have some other powerhouse women or girls in my group. We had Papa Reeves. She was great. You know, she was another female chess player that was pretty awesome as well.
Yeah, I have not heard that name in a while, and you're right. She was good. I remember Piper.
Yeah, she's doing great. She's married and doing that. And Lena Stevens, I don't know if you remember her, but she played chess as well. So,
Well, Morgan, it was so good to see you, and I hope we can chat again soon.
Thanks for inviting me. Send me information on tournaments. I might show up.
great to meet you.
Thanks.
Thanks again. All right. Let's see. Emily, thanks for setting up these little chess chats. That was fascinating to talk to Morgan there. Really cool story.
Well, in our maybe 25 years of this tournament, I'm sorry to say that I have not kept up with every tournament and every winner, but we've only had 2 female high school chess champions. And the other one was, you may recognize the name, Danielle Newcomb. That's Connie Newcomb's oldest daughter. She was the highest rated female in Mississippi for a while, and she won a few years after Morgan did. She's a little younger, but those two.
I was going to ask how many years this tournament has been going on.
Somewhere around 25 years ago, Brenda Ballard, who was the teacher mentioned there, and I started having friendly tournaments between our spotlight programs. And one year, we both had a student move to Walls, Mississippi. So we reached over to the teacher who was at Walls, Mississippi at that time. And I can't remember if it was Mr. Majors or Ramona Abernathy. I hate to say they were both longtime teachers at Walls, but she or he decided to get their team together and join us. So it turned into a 3-school tournament. And that's what I consider to be the first real chess championship. The tournaments that took place before that were more friendly, across district rivals playing just for the benefit of our kids. But when you get 3 schools involved, it begins to get serious. And Mike Stewart became our first tournament director. And Mike is the highest rated, for many years was the highest rated chess player in the state of Mississippi. I think he is still the highest rated native born chess player in Mississippi that continues to live in the state, which is a little complicated, but we're real proud of Mike at home in Hernando. He's one of our native sons and lived his life in Hernando and has given so much back to the school system and to his community over the years. So he was our first tournament director, and he did so for 7 or 8 years.
And I'm confused. Is Mike kin to Douglas Stewart, who's another strong player in Mississippi?
They are not. I do know Douglas Stewart. I've met him a few times, but no, they are not kin. Mike has lived his life in Hernando and competed, has a strong rating, but hasn't competed in many years. For probably the last 20 years, he has enjoyed coaching, and he just adopts schools from time to time. And we're lucky to have a wonderful. He's married to a wonderful woman, Roseanne Stewart, who also teaches in DeSoto County schools, and he has helped the schools that she teaches in. His daughter, Erin, is now, Erin Hart, I believe. She is now a teacher at Lewisburg Middle School, and she plays chess very well herself. So we need to get Erin involved in encouraging kids to play.
Awesome. Yeah. And so we're going to be chatting with Mike a little bit later today. Is that right?
I believe so. Maybe about 12:30. He will also call us, and it'll be interesting to hear his stories. We've been friends for many, many years.
Yeah, I know I've met Mike before, but I don't think I've talked to him in a while. So it'll be good to catch up and hear more about his story and everything. So yeah, that's great that we can have these chess chats interspersed with talking about the games here. I see Jonathan has been looking at some of the remaining games. We've only got 4 games left here in the first round. So just taking a peek at what we started at 9:15, it's about to be 9:40 here, and the majority of the games have already finished. So like I was talking about earlier, it's pretty common for a lot of the games to finish, in half the allotted time, but then there to be, sort of the few long haulers who are finishing up the round here. So that seems to be the case. Okay, I'm going to look up this player Buntley because I don't know what it goes to. So let me see here. Okay, so Buntley is a player named Towery McNeil who goes to DeSoto Central. Okay, and this other player, Carson Ewing. Okay, let's see what school he goes to. It looks like he goes to Center Hill High School with Douglas Miller. Okay, so we've got DeSoto Central versus Center Hill here. Very cool. And so this game is actually pretty even, right? Both sides have all the same pieces, right? 4 pawns for each side, and then each side has a queen and 2 rooks. So this one is pretty even, and definitely anything could happen here. If you take a look at the players' ratings here, both Carson and Towery have, this is their first online tournament on Lead Chess, which is why Lead Chess automatically starts you with a 1500 rating. And then based on how you do in your games, it can modify that rating. I think I set this tournament up to be rated. So that means that every individual game will affect a player's rating. Yeah, it is rated. Got it. Thank you, Jonathan.
To be more specific, this is their first tournament in this time control, in the classical time control, but Buntley actually has other ratings in Blitz and Rapid. But classical is a really rare time control for online play. So
that's a good point. Yeah, Jonathan's pointing out that some of these players, they may already have a Blitz or a Rapid rating if they're used to playing faster games online, but they might not have what's called a classical rating, which means like longer games like these 25-minute games we're playing today. So sometimes, I see a big mistake from Carson that he just made. Right, it looks like White can just take, and then he's got 2 defenders on it, right? And so that was a game-ending mistake by Carson. Now he's about to get checkmated here. I think he just didn't notice that White had 3 attackers on that square, and he only had 2. So, okay, the game ends with a win for Towery. So we've got 2 games left in this first round. I'm going to remind everybody in the tournament chat that, well, actually, Jonathan pointed out that it may be that people can't see the tournament chat. But I'm going to at least tell everybody here on the stream, if you're tuning in, that the next, all the subsequent rounds will begin exactly 5 minutes after all the games end in the previous round. So if these last 2 games wrap up here in a couple minutes, at 9:45, then the next round could begin, as early as 9:50. So if you need to use it, make a quick bathroom break or grab a quick snack, you have, there's no scheduled time for the next round. So you're going to just want to, be there at your computer, ready to start the next round whenever it ends up. So.
No lunch break.
Right. No specific lunch break.
No, we never have had a lunch break at this tournament. We've always just, students are allowed to snack between rounds.
Right. Yeah. I think I remember, don't like some parents sometimes stand or something, Emily, at the tournament?
Yes, our parents will bring us in, bring clubs, teams, snacks, and usually, especially at the younger grades, the 4th and 5th grade levels, we have more parents and grandparents there than we have competitors. But by the time we get to the high school level, we have fewer parents that stop in, but they're always welcome to come in and watch I've told people, and I'll say it many times, watching a chess game is like watching paint dry. I'm sorry. It is just not a spectator sport a whole lot, although y'all are doing an excellent job of that here.
I think we probably disagree.
I bet you do. But a parent watching their child play chess from behind a taped line 20 yards away can't really, it's not much of a spectator sport. Why I would encourage parents to come in is to wish their children well and to let them know that they're proud of their children. It takes a lot of bravery to sit across the chessboard from someone you have never met and have a battle of the brain.
No, I hear what you're saying, Emily. My parents never really wanted to come and watch my tournaments because I was playing. I didn't start until 5th grade. So I was kind of at that age where I didn't want my parents to be breathing down my neck about anything. And so I was kind of happy that they just left me alone to do the tournament by myself, with my coach and my teammates and everything. But no, in retrospect, sometimes I do feel jealous of kids whose parents are there, supporting them, making sure they eat enough and consoling them if they lose. It's just different for every kid.
That fifth grade age, I think you started at a great age. You were at the twilight of childhood. You hadn't quite gone into those teen years mentally or emotionally. It was a great age for you to start. But I also encourage 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds can learn to play chess, and they can be competent players by kindergarten.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do think it depends on the kid. I definitely have met plenty of kids who started much younger than me, and they did great with it. And I've also met, plenty of people who started much later than me, and they also did great. I mean, even here at the Memphis Chess Club, since we opened up last month, there's been tons of new adult players who have been participating and, starting in their 20s or 30s or older than that. And
sure.
So there's no wrong time to get into chess, that's for sure.
My father taught all of his grandsons how to play chess, and with the 2 youngest ones, Atticus, who plays in your tournaments often, he was trying to teach Atticus to play at about 3, and Silas, who is 13 months younger, also wanted to play, so they made a deal that he could watch if he didn't chew the pieces. And that is probably 2 is probably the youngest I've ever known a chess player to start learning to play chess. But he developed the concentration needed to not chew on the pieces.
There you go. That's a start. That's awesome. I have a daughter now who is 5 months old, and Yeah, she would definitely put the pieces in her mouth if I
Yeah.
gave her the opportunity. So
Yeah,
I'll take what I can get at this point.
that's right. But give her 2 years. She'll be able to concentrate. So it's just that you're never too old, but you're not really too young either. If they're old enough to not chew on the pieces, they're old enough to start chess.
I work primarily with really young kids, 5, 6, 7, and I had a student once who was in first or second grade, and his little brother just grew up watching his dad and older brother play. And so by the time his little brother was like 6, he was a strong player. He understood all the strategic ideas, he saw the tactics. He couldn't talk about the game. Right? He had learned it almost as a second language. He had no idea like what a pin or a fork was in words, but he knew. I mean, he just grew up watching chess. So if you have other family members who play, that's a big head start, especially for a kid.
Totally, totally. And often it's the younger sibling who ends up being better because of exactly what Jonathan is saying, because they get the experience of watching the older sibling play and learn. And so they sort of have a stalking horse for their own development, and that can be really beneficial. I think a lot of parents don't realize that. A lot of parents don't realize that um, that for a younger sibling, seeing the older sibling doing something can be even more inspiring than hearing it directly from the parent.
You are
So
so right. You are so right, Alex. And or seeing just older children in general. That's one reason why we do like to have the chess tournament when we are able to have a live chess tournament across boards with pieces that could be chewed on. Um, we do like to have multiple ages there because the younger kids enjoy looking up to the older students, and typically chess players are excellent role models for them to look up to.
yeah, no, I remember when I started. You know, I was very inspired by when I started in fifth grade. My middle school was fifth through eighth grade, and yeah, I really was inspired. Older kids in seventh and eighth grade in my middle school chess club. All I wanted to do was hang out with them and beat them.
That's right. Yeah,
So if I got to that,
exactly.
it was just like, yeah, it was just a big motivation for sure. So, yeah, when Morgan was talking about how she wanted to beat her sister, yeah, for me, my sister never really had any interest in chess, and so I didn't really have family members to practice against, and so that's why it was just even more exciting, to be in the middle school chess club with the other kids there playing with them. So um, anyway, okay, let's see what's going on in one of these last games here. We've got a player, R. McCool, and another player, Ethan Haggard, playing one of the last 2 games, right, Jonathan? There's still 2 ongoing games?
And no, the other game ended with a checkmate just now, so this is the only ongoing game. But it should be over pretty soon. White will just queen, and then checkmate probably pretty quickly afterwards.
Not quite rightly that this game is going to be over pretty soon here, right? Once White makes a queen, it should be not long before White can force a checkmate, unless he's not careful and he does a stalemate instead. But either way, this game will probably be over just in a couple minutes here. And that means that the second round will begin probably before 10 o'clock here. So we'll be a little bit ahead of schedule, which is good, because since this is a long tournament, if we can, save 15 minutes here or there when a round ends early, then that means people can, have their big lunch a little bit sooner once the tournament is over. All right, I'm going to look up what school these guys are in. So we've got R. McCool. Okay, Riley McCool. That player goes to DeSoto Central. And the other one is Ethan Haggard. Okay, Ethan Haggard goes to Olive Branch High School. So we've got DeSoto Central player playing White against Olive Branch High School player. And I like that Riley is taking his time here, right? Playing White He's up a queen. He's got a completely winning position, but he's taking his time. And that's very smart because, like I mentioned, in a situation like this where you're completely winning, there is still always the risk that you could stalemate your opponent if you're not careful. And that would like basically ruin all of his hard work if he made an uncareful move and stalemated his opponent. So for those of you listening who are unclear about the difference between stalemate and checkmate, very important rule to be aware of that a lot of players get confused in their mind. So when you checkmate someone, you put them in check and they have no way out of check. So they have no moves and they're in check. Game is over, they lose. When you stalemate someone, you don't put them in check, but you trap them and take away all of their moves, but they're not in check. And that's a stalemate, that's a draw, that's a tie. So it's just a tiny little difference whether they're in check or not. That makes a difference between whether it's checkmate and stalemate, but that's the difference between you winning the game and you only drawing the game. And so in a situation like this, Riley, playing white, has to be careful that he doesn't completely trap Ethan's king until he's ready to also put him in check. So Jonathan is highlighting the safe squares that the black king has. Okay, the black king has some squares that he can move to safely. And yeah, so Jonathan, show us what the bad move would be that Riley could play here that would actually stalemate. If he did this, if he moved his queen to this F2 square, he would actually be taking away all of the legal squares from black's king, but not putting him in check. And so he didn't do that, which is smart. He's bringing his king up. So I'm sure that Riley notices the risk of stalemating Ethan, and okay, and he ended with a checkmate. So this is the difference. Now black is in check, and he's trapped. So that's a checkmate. Okay, so Riley won the game. Okay, so the first round is over, and as you see, the countdown has begun for the start of the next round. So every round has a 5-minute break in between. So now Riley and Ethan and anybody else who needs to can take a quick break for a snack or whatever they need to do. And yeah, the games will begin momentarily.
I want to point out, you see a bunch of people, 1748, 1748, all these ratings. Because of the question mark afterwards, these are what we call provisional ratings. So they swing really hard, right? One win, your rating will go up 200 points, or one loss, it'll go down 200 points. This isn't normal, but this is how the system tries to very quickly figure out what a player's level is by quickly moving the rating up. And after they play a certain number of games, it will crystallize so that now it'll be maybe 10, 15 points per game instead of 200 or 300. But you're gonna see these ratings go up or down by hundreds of points over the course of this tournament because of that.
Right, that's a really good point. That when you don't have a rating yet, your rating swings really very volatile. Every win will make it go up a lot, and every loss will make it go down a lot. And then after you play a dozen or two games, then it will be moving a lot more slowly because your rating will be what's called established, and it will more accurately reflect your actual strength. But yeah, at the beginning, these people who start off with 1500 rating, I mean, if you are, let's say, an 1800 strength player and you start off with a 1500 rating, the system is just trying to get that rating up to what it should be, which is 1800 as quickly as possible. Or if you start off with your 1500 rating, but you're actually a 1200 strength player, same thing. The system is going to try to get that rating down to what your actual strength is as soon as possible. And then, like I said, after, 10 or 20 games, let's say, your rating theoretically should be more like what your strength is. And so then every win will only, get you 10 or whatever points. And yeah, then in order to increase your rating or whatever, you'll have to actually increase your strength.
Right, but even for someone with an established rating, I believe Lichess has a volatility metric, so that if you take a couple of months off without playing any games, your rating will be a little bit more volatile when you come back, just in case you've gotten a lot better. And I think FIDE ratings may have a similar system, but I don't think US chess ratings do.
That's an interesting point. I don't know anything about that for any in-person ratings. So anybody with an in-person rating, I don't think it does that. I think that's just a thing that online ratings do. If you haven't played in a while, it kind of makes your volatility high again. Jonathan, I myself am going to run and use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back. So if you don't
Sure.
mind holding forward, thank you.
Sure. So we've got another minute and a half until the next round. We're up to 45 players. We did have one draw by insufficient material. Both players have only a king, so it's impossible to win in this position, so it's an automatic draw. This is also true if you have a king and a bishop versus a king and a knight versus a king, or a king and two knights versus a king. Although that's an interesting situation. It is possible to set up a checkmate with a king and two knights versus a king, but it is impossible to force one unless your opponent is intentionally trying to get checkmated. So the rules do consider that to be a draw. King and two bishops or king, bishop, and knight are tricky, but it is possible to force checkmate with those assortment of pieces. But here, with only two bare kings on the board, the game is an automatic draw because it's impossible to win for either player. And we had one other player who showed up a little bit late for the first round and got a half a point. There will be a total of 5 rounds, and each round will be worth 1, half, or 0 for each player. Players will only play other people with the same number of points, unless there's an odd number, like the bottom one might play the top half, but for the most part, everyone with 1 is going to play everyone else with 1. Next round, everyone with 2 is going to play everyone else with 2. And so the idea is that in the last round, the 2 strongest players will play each other. In a tournament where every rating is provisional, that probably won't happen because the system doesn't know what to converge on, but that's the typical goal of a Swiss event. So we're starting with the next round, and I'll hand things back over to Alex.
All right, so we've got our second round going here. Jonathan, did all the games, I think you said there was, how many draws were there in the first round?
There was only one, and it was by insufficient material, just bare kings on the board.
But it looks like what? There's also one other player that joined late or something?
Yeah. The orange one is an actual draw. The gray one is a late entry.
Okay, so we only had one player join late.
We got a buy.
With a buy in the first round. But I still see the join button. So it looks like players can still join even starting in the third round if they want, and then play the last 3 games.
Right.
So I don't think they'll be able to join starting in the 4th round, but it looks like they can still join starting in the 3rd round if they're running really late. But even if we just have the 45 players who are in the tournament right now, that's still pretty good. And so, yeah, I know you were just talking about this, Jonathan, but if there's 21 players with 1 out of 1, right? So if there's 21 players with 1 out of 1, that means that there could be 11 players with 2 out of 2, and then there could be 6 players with 3 out of 3, and then there could be 3 players with 4 out of 4, and then there could actually be 2 players with 5 out of 5, right? Although that would assume that there are literally no more draws in the entire tournament, which is pretty unlikely.
Well, among perfect score players, right? You could have draws at the lower level.
Right.
But we did have an odd number of players. So we did have one person got a full point buy because they didn't have an opponent. So that person didn't play this round. And someone already won one of their games with a quick checkmate on F2. You see the queen and knight mate.
Right, a good thing to watch out for. I'm sure that won't be the last game like this that we see in this tournament.
I discourage that at tournament play.
Well, you should, but it works, and people won't stop doing it until their opponents stop falling for it. It's really hard to convince a kid to stop doing something that wins games.
I have a funny story related to that. One year, I don't remember which year, but Mike Stewart might remember, I had told my students not to do that, not to do that, not to do that. And they went behind my back. And at the beginning of round 3 or round 4, the whole team decided to try to pull that. And it was successful in probably 6 of the 10 games that my students were in. And it is hard to fuss at kids who've come back with a big smile on their face. But the remainders who were playing games did find themselves in a pretty awkward position. Some of them went on to win and some of them didn't. But that's the weakness of it, is if they don't fall for it, then you have to live with the consequences of your decision.
Right. Yeah, I would say that you don't, even if you win, even if it succeeds and you win the game in 4 moves or whatever, you haven't really learned anything because you're just sort of employing the same strategy that you've used. So, although from a kid's perspective, choosing between trying something that might work, even if they don't learn something from it, and then they would win the game, or choosing something else that they're going to learn from, but it might not work, and then they might lose. I mean, that's definitely a tough decision from a kid's perspective, for sure.
I consider it blitzing the quarterback without the coach's permission. You know, they all went and charged all at one time, and we won 6 or 7 games in that round because none of them had pulled it up to that round, and they had all made a little pact what they were going to do. So the cat's out of the bag, gal. None of the other teams should try anything like that because all the other teams will be ready for it.
Yeah, I think the best way to deal with kids who always are trying to do the, win in 4 moves like that is to just basically teach as many kids as you can how to block it, so that those kids won't be able to win with that anymore, and then they'll sort of be forced to learn some new tricks, which will be good for them. That's my
Right.
opinion.
I mean, it's impossible to discourage a kid from doing something that works. I mean, it's that simple. A lot of the time, it's the form of checkmate, which stops working pretty early in your chess career.
Yes.
But when I was a kid, I was a super aggressive player. Like, not just I like to try to attack, just throwing pieces in the trash, everything at the king. And I was really good at that style of play. I got to about 1,400, 1,500 with just attacking. But I hit a brick wall. Suddenly I had to play people who could actually defend. They would take the pieces and then defend, and then I don't have any more pieces, and I would lose. And so I got stuck at that rating for like 3 years. I was the highest rated 3rd grader in the city, and in 6th grade I was the same rating. I mean, I had to totally relearn how to play the game in order to get any better. I mean, and because it wasn't working anymore. So
for a lot of developing chess players, something that is a strength for them can end up holding them back if they rely on it too much. It's kind of like when the only tool you have is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail. But sometimes you need other tools besides a hammer, you know what I mean? So it's like, if you have your one trick, you don't want to be a one-trick pony, basically. That can sort of hold back a developing chess player. All they know how to do is go for the 4-move checkmate, or like Jonathan's saying, a little bit more sophisticated. You know more than one checkmating pattern, but that's all you're trying to do is just sort of go for the jugular every time. And chess can be a lot more than that. And so if you only have your one trick, that can hold you back. But anyway, it's just another example of why chess is a deep and a rich game that you can learn a lot from. People of all, kids of all ages, they start off thinking that chess is just a matter of trying the 4-move checkmate and seeing if it works or not. And then as they play more and they get more experience, they learn more, they realize that there's a lot more to it. So I think that's a really cool thing about chess. It's sort of like you're never going to exhaust its possibilities. There's always going to be more for you to learn from it. And that's just a great thing for kids. I don't know. I think that a lot of, for example, like video games that kids play these days they're not like that. It's not something that's like inexhaustible and rich and that has a history to it that they can learn from their whole life. It's more like, some video games are just like, I don't know, you could play it all day for a few months and then you would pretty much get everything there is to get out of it. Jonathan may disagree. Jonathan is more of a video game aficionado than I am. But,
well, I don't play the same games that 8-year-old kids play. I mean, it's a little bit of a different story.
video games it's just like,
As a mother,
not gonna do
I
much.
think both have a wonderful place. As a mother, I wanted my boys to grow up playing chess, but I also wanted them to be gamers. And I do think they learn different things from both things. And I think in a lot of ways, both experiences build those synaptic pathways and make you smarter in other ways. There's some carryover into the rest of the world.
Yeah, maybe I'm not being fair enough to video games, or maybe I just am just a partisan for chess. But
If you only had to have one, you want chess.
Maybe.
I did like video games as a kid. I'll say that. But now they don't. It doesn't hold as much interest for me anymore, I guess. But
Saving the princess is not your goal, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Zelda, that was a favorite of mine for sure. But I think just once I got really into chess, it ended up being interesting enough for me that I didn't like need other video games anymore. But not everybody is like that. A lot of people, I guess, still want to play a variety of games. A lot of the kids who I teach chess to, they play a bunch of different video games too, and they love it. So yeah, I'm not saying those things are bad. I just yeah, chess is just the best. That's all I'm trying to say. Chess is the best. But Jonathan, what would you disagree with my characterization? Would you say that there are some video games that are as rich as chess, or that
I would, but I only play ridiculously opaque strategy games with like 50 different menus and that take like 20 hours to play one playthrough. You know, I'm not playing like Fortnite or all the other games that the kids are into. So most video games are a huge waste of time, but I don't play those games. So I have a different take.
I can't believe that I'm the one here defending video games.
No.
So unlike me.
Trust me, I play plenty of video games.
But I do think that we learn as educators, one of the things we need to learn from video games is that instant feedback. Because when you give a student instant feedback, it inspires them to go correct and go forward immediately. And if we could all take a lesson from the Nintendo instant feedback model of education and inspiration to try to take on a new skill.
That's true, but I also think that's part of the danger, right? If you're trying to accomplish something in real life, it takes time and practice. But with video games, that dopamine hit, like that success, seeing the numbers get bigger, is almost instant. And so 8 hours later, you're just still pressing the same button, still doing the same things, because you get that feedback instantaneously. And so you can just never step away from it. I've had plenty of 12-hour marathon gaming sessions. And I never got bored. I mean, it was always another button to press. There's always another number to make bigger.
In addiction in any form, even if it's for a positive experience, is not a good thing. We don't want to have addicted gamers. We don't have addicted chess players or addicted boyfriends and girlfriends. But and so no, I agree with you. I think you can lose a lot of time on video games, but I do think it builds synaptic pathways, and that educators can learn an awful lot from video games.
That is a good point, Emily. I agree with that, and I will say that recently I've been just like learning some new some foreign languages on Duolingo, which also has a video game like setup, and that you get a lot of sort of stars and other kind of video game like things that you collect and trying to boost your experience points and whatever else. So it's sort of, you're learning in a video game like environment, but you're just learning a foreign language. I have been enjoying that. So I definitely hear what you're saying, that the instant feedback can be good. Jonathan does make a good point too, though, that one thing that is cool about chess is that it forces you to slow down, and the fact that the feedback is not always instantaneous definitely has benefits as well. So there's good things about both, for sure. Anyway, Jonathan, it looks like there's 16 games left, now 15. Now, why does it Oh, I see. I see. So some of the games, some of the players that have finished 2 games, we're not looking at in the top 10 here, right? So how many games did we start off with? If there were 45, that means that
22.
it was another 22 games, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. So seven of the games have finished so far. Well, now 8. And it looks like of the players that have finished, there's 4 players that have 2 out of 2. But there's still some players with 1 out of 1 who could still win their game and join the perfect scores. But Jonathan, am I right that since at least one player has 1.5 out of 2, that means that it's no longer possible for there to be multiple perfect scores in the tournament?
I don't know, right? How many ones haven't finished? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there could be 6 more 2s. That would give us a total of 10 with 3 more rounds to go. 5 up to, I mean, we could maybe still have 2 perfect scores.
Okay,
It would require no more draws.
right. It's still possible for there to be multiple perfect scores. But yeah, any further draws among the perfect scores would eliminate that possibility. Yeah, as a tournament director, I always sort of want there to be a clear winner, because I feel like the participants are more satisfied when there's like one person who's, in clear first place, as opposed to there being a tie, and then however you end up with the top, someone is going to be less satisfied than others. Some tournaments they do a playoff for first place. Some tournaments they just let the computer calculate the tie breaks as to who gets the first place trophy, who gets the second place trophy. That's what we're going to be doing for this tournament. So Chess automatically calculates the tie breaks for people who finish in the same score, and those tie breaks are based on what players you played in the tournament and what their scores were, right? So if we do, let's say, end up having 2 people that finish with 5 out of 5, the way the tie breaks will be calculated, they'll look at the 5 players that the one player played and the 5 players that the second player played, and they'll add up the scores of their opponents. So the one player that tied for first, if he played 5 players that ended up scoring a total of 15 points, and then the second player that tied for first, if she ended up playing 5 players whose scores add up to 20, then she will have better tie breaks, and she will win the first place trophy on tie breaks, and the player who tied with her will win second place trophy on tie breaks. But like I said, hopefully we just have a clear first place winner, because that is often a little bit more satisfying for everybody involved. But we'll see. We've got a plan for how to deal with it either way. And I believe Emily is having the players' names engraved on the trophies, which is nice. Nice touch.
We did not pre-buy our trophies this year as normal, because it's always fun to look at the trophies over there in the trophy table, especially when you're a 4th grader or 5th grader, and dream about taking one home with you. But we won't really have that experience during this tournament. So I thought it would be a nice addition to go ahead and, when we award the trophies, have the school's name or the student's name engraved on it for them. So they'll get their trophies sometime next week.
Beautiful. Yeah, that is cool. I did not get an engraved trophy very often when I was a kid. It usually just said the tournament in first place. So having the name on there is extra cool for sure.
Oh, it usually said first place. A little bit of a humble brag here from Alex King.
whatever place I got.
That's right. Well, this is, I don't know that I've ever engraved a student's name on one before, but this is an unusual year. This is a really cool year. So don't you think the kids deserve really cool tournaments, really cool trophies?
Honestly, I feel like kids who are alive in 2020 doing anything, I feel like everything they do in 2020 they'll be able to look back on it, as this sort of mythical experience that they got to play in a chess tournament in 2020, or they got to attend.
That's right.
In 2020,
yeah. And we got to give a real round of applause to the coaches, because none of them 6 to 8 weeks ago even knew we were having a tournament. much less had accounts on with chess. And one of our our coaches joined us since then, even as the team coach. So they have worked extra to make sure their students were given this opportunity. And
Yeah, absolutely.
they don't even get, all they get a pat on the back maybe, but I'm real proud of them, and I'm appreciative that we've got that kind of staff.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, getting used to these online tournaments is a lot of new stuff to learn. So definitely appreciate all the coaches and parents and players who are working with us to get used to this new thing. And hopefully, now that they've learned how to do it, it's just an extra thing that they're able to do because, like I said, Memphis Chess Club runs weekly tournaments online in Lead Chess that all of the DeSoto County students are welcome to participate in.
Right.
And so, and also Lead Chess itself runs tournaments all the time online that students can participate in. Everything on Lead Chess is always free. So, if you can just, make your account and figure out how to use it, then it is an extra opportunity to practice and learn. So,
Well, Alex, also thank you to Jonathan, if you're participating too. We'll hold the middle school tournament on December 8th. And then sometime next semester, we will get together and set a date for the DeSoto County 5th grade tournament and the DeSoto County 4th grade tournament. And just you're giving a great experience to these kids in the year of COVID that they would never otherwise have. And they can be on their chess team, whether they are a on-site or online learner. Thanks to you.
it is my pleasure, and I'm sure Jonathan feels the same way. It's
Yes.
our pleasure to just get you guys involved and figure out a way to make this happen. So it's been a fun adventure. So all right, so let's look up these players here. So we've got Elijah Stage playing white against Elton Trujillo, and let's see what school they go to. So Elijah goes to Hernando High School with Coach Emily Trapolino, and Elton goes to South Haven High School with the coach Alan Underwood. So so yeah, we've got Hernando versus South Haven High Schools here. Emily, remind me again how many different high schools are participating today?
We have 8 high schools in DeSoto County, but only 6 were able to field teams today.
Okay,
Which it's sad, but we do have 6 high schools competing for the championship, and I'm very proud of those coaches and those schools for giving their students this chance.
awesome. So I'm just trying to remember what they all are. So we've got DeSoto Central, we've got Hernando, we've got Central Hill, we've got South Haven, we've got
And Lake Comrade High School and Center Hill High School has a full team as well.
right. I think I listed Center Hill, so I'm missing one.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and say them just because I don't want to leave one out. Center Hill, Olive Branch, you might not have mentioned Olive Branch, DeSoto Central, South Haven, Lake Comrade, and Hernando.
Got it. Okay, very cool, very cool. Yeah, awesome. All right, so we're looking at this game between Elijah from Hernando and Elton from South Haven, and it looks like Elton's got the upper hand for sure, right? Well, not
I mean,
for
it's
sure.
a queen for a knight and a rook, right? It's a complicated.
It's definitely not totally clear.
I mean, I would rather play black, and I assume you agree, but this game is not anywhere close to over.
It's definitely not decided. Elton maybe has a little bit of the upper hand, but it's definitely not totally clear. And they're both taking their time, right? I mean, they both used about 10 minutes of their starting time, and they're continuing to not play immediately, right? They're thinking about each of their moves, and that probably explains why they're having a good close match.
Yeah, there's some potential tactics here that make the game complicated. I don't know if the players will see it, but like if black takes the pawn to defend the bishop, white has check, see, just like this, and then check, king d7, and then bishop here. If black blocks, pawn takes, knight takes d5 because of the pin. There's a lot here to sort of calculate ahead, and I don't know if it'll show up on the board, but there's still lots of complicated possibilities in this game. But the more it trades down, the more I think black is favored here.
Right. Yeah. It looks like Elijah didn't notice that rook check, and I actually didn't even notice it either until you pointed that out, Jonathan. So
yeah, I mean, after bishop a4, king e7, I think black is still okay, but there's lots of difficulties after rook h8.
Okay, so it looks like Elton is sort of building on his advantage a little bit here, right? He can take with check, he does take with check, and so now Elton is up, what, 3 points of material, right? Or is it just 2? Oh, he's up 3. He's up 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so that it is looking good for black, but definitely the game is not over yet, right? White can win another pawn. Let's take a look at what other games we've got going on, Jonathan. We've got 8 games remaining. Yeah, let's pick one of the other ones and just take a peek and see how it's going.
This one looks like the closest one. Material's even. You know, kind of a complicated middle game. How would you evaluate this position, Alex?
Let's see here. All right. Well, in terms of materials equal. So really, it just comes down to position here. Yeah, I mean, instinctively, I do like black's extra center pawns, right? So black has a D and an E pawn, and white does not have either a D or an E pawn. And so, and white is actually sacrificing a piece, and I'm not sure if that was a good move. So yeah, white may have caused a problem for themselves here.
Queen c7 might be playable.
Right, queen c7, then maybe just queen d8, or...
I mean, queen c7 threatens this. Where does the rook go?
No, I'm saying after queen c7, queen d8, I think black has.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too.
It's not clear. I mean, even if, yeah, white has sacrificed a piece for a pawn. White may get another pawn for that piece. Ooh, white is playing g4. Yeah, to me, honestly, Jonathan, it looks like white is working a little too hard here.
Yeah.
Trying to do too much, and it's going to backfire.
This would be how I would play as a 3rd or 4th grader. Just throw stuff in, and eventually they'll make a mistake, and I win. Right, but
right, and that may be the case. You never know. In a lot of these scholastic games, a lot of it does just come down to who is sort of playing with more energy, and some of the details of whether it works or not almost don't matter. It really just matters who's leaving more on the mat there. Okay, but I just wanted to mention so that I don't forget that I think we're scheduled soon here to have another guest on to have a chess chat with us, and so
Yes. Our Superintendent of Education, Corey Etzelton, will be joining us as soon as he is finished with some meetings that he has this morning, and we projected that to be around 10:30, but he is a very busy man, so he might be a few minutes late. But
yeah, it's great that he'll be able to join us whenever.
Yes, Mr. Etzelton grew up in a gifted education program, and he has been a very supportive leader of this program. And he's also attended our tournament, not only as a supportive superintendent, but as the parent of a player. So I'm excited to hear what Mr. Etzelton has to say about chess and chess in DeSoto County.
Yeah, that is great. It is always great to have supportive administrators.
Amen.
I mean, of course, it's good to have supportive administrators for anything you're trying to do, but chess is no exception, right? I mean, scholastic chess involves a lot of organization and logistics, to figure out, and so
it does. I mean, I've always been blessed to have be able to ask wonderful men to be my tournament directors, except, of course, Connie Newcomb was a wonderful woman who was our tournament director for 7 or 8 years. And I've had lots of help so that I could deal with the logistics of getting the buses there on time and getting the permission slips to the buses and getting the chess coaches at the schools, getting the school to have a new chess coach 4 weeks before the tournament, making sure the chess information gets out there. Because if you don't have somebody running interference, I don't care how great a chess players you have, it's just real hard to have a big tournament.
Right, totally. Yeah, and having been at the big in-person version of this tournament and all the other scholastic tournaments in with the Mississippi Scholastic Chess Association, I definitely see how much goes into it. So
yes, it doesn't just happen miraculously. Those boards have to be set up and taken down, and it takes a long time. We usually do it a day at a time. And you've been working on this for several weeks, Alex. Thank you.
oh yeah, no, absolutely, right, exactly. Like even just setting up an online version of the tournament takes a lot of work. So just the in-person version, of course, is like even more. So
While we're waiting on Mr. Usselton to join us, one person who cannot join us today is Jeff Bolheis. But Jeff Bolheis has been a tremendous support to chess in DeSoto County and to the state of Mississippi. And his wife, Denise, has introduced herself as the brawn behind the brains. So she is the force that clears the path for Jeff to do all the exciting things that he does. But he is a wonderful gentleman and has run our tournaments for at least 10 years. And, he takes his vacation days to come run our chess tournaments.
right.
And we are so thankful, so appreciative for wonderful people like that.
Well, the Bolheises are a great family. They're awesome, and Jeff's son Spencer is a strong chess player, and Spencer, I believe, is now at University of Alabama. I think he's studying something super impressive, like
He is.
aerospace engineering or something like that.
Yes, I think he's unless he's moved, he's at the Huntsville, University of Alabama, Huntsville. And he is studying aerospace engineering, and I expect him to be Elon Musk's right-hand man soon.
We'll see him on Saturn before long.
We very well could. Well, Mars anyway, sure.
Right,
Be a great leader of the Mars colony. I would be nominating him for that right now.
That's good. I'm sure he appreciates that vote of confidence.
A lot of those early trips are going to be one way, so.
Well,
if they're one way, Denise Bolheis will have a seat on it too.
So taking a look at this game here, this is a very interesting game because White is down a piece, right? Black has an extra knight, but White has 4 extra pawns for that piece, and this is one of those cases where the 4 extra pawns are just they are outstripping the knight. I mean, look at White's pawn on a7 is almost to the promotion square, and Black's knight has to babysit that square. And meanwhile, White has several other pawns that are like sort of steamrolling down the board. There we go. Yeah, so White has been handling those extra pawns very well here, and
yeah,
Black's then probably hoping that his extra knight would you'd be able to cash in on that, but the tables have turned, right?
It's been a knight for 4 pawns for a long time in this game. Way earlier in the game, back when all the pawns were like back here, the knight was probably better. I thought Black was better, but as the game went on and the pieces traded off and these pawns started all pushing down the board, now the 4 pawns are way stronger than the knight. I mean, White should win this easily. And now he's just got a queen.
Yeah, so this game is let's take a look at some other games here. What else do we have? We've got 6 games remaining. Sorry, let's real quick count how many perfect scores we have. We have 8 perfect scores so far. And then this player who's going to win this game, Tyler, he's going to also have a perfect score. So we're going to have at least 9 perfect scores.
We'll have 11 because we've got 6 more players with 1 still playing.
So what is that? That means we could have 12.
1 here. Well, we currently have 8, and there are 6 more, so we'll get 3, unless there are draws, right? But we'll get up to 11 perfect scores at the end of round 2.
Got it, of to 11 per school. Okay,
which is expected. I mean, in high level chess, there's draws all over the place, but at this level, draws are extremely rare. I've seen multiple tournaments with no draws in them.
That's a good point that Jonathan is making. That draws, even though among strong players draws are very common, among scholastic players they're uncommon because a lot of times there's much bigger swings in who's winning in scholastic games, right? I mean, someone accidentally lets their queen get captured, or someone else accidentally makes some other, big mistake, and so those big swings mean that like it's very likely that one person or the other will end up landing some kind of knockout blow, and so a draw is less common unless someone accidentally stalemates. That's the most common way that a draw occurs. Okay, it looks like our guest is connecting with us. Hey there, Mr. Usselton, can you hear me and everything all right?
I can. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Hello, Mr. Usselton. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Ms. Nelson. Yeah, appreciate the invitation.
This is exciting. I have introduced you a few minutes ago as we were waiting on you. I told them that you grew up in a gifted education program and that you had supported this tournament not only as an administrator, both at the principal's level and at the superintendent's level, but as a parent. And I just appreciate all of that support. Thank you so much. But what could you tell us about this experience?
Yes, that's great. I'm glad, first of all, that y'all have found an avenue for us to have the chess tournament this year, because I had to learn a little bit about virtual chess when Miss Nelson told me about it several weeks ago. I was like, okay, now exactly how does that work? That's good, but I do think it's great that our students are able to do this, and that's part of the process of going back to school. We want to try to offer as many opportunities as we can to our students, and it's amazing the innovative ways that things have gotten done during this time of COVID. And as a parent, both of my children have gone through the Spotlight program, and also we have, I've enjoyed them as far as the chess tournaments and Scrabble and the different events. And one thing that I like about chess is the strategy that goes into it. I've told my sons a lot that chess is a lot like life. You've always got to be 2 or 3 moves ahead. You got to be thinking about where you're going next. And so I think it's a good experience for them, good learning tool. I was in Spotlight program when I was in elementary school myself, and enjoyed that aspect of it and the critical thinking skills that are developed through it. So just wanted to come in and say thank y'all for putting this on for our students, and I'm just really excited we're able to do this.
Yeah, awesome. I was just telling Emily when we were talking about you a few minutes ago that it is just great to have supportive administrators when you're trying to organize something like a chess tournament. Of course, when you're trying to organize anything, but just like how much planning and logistics a scholastic chess tournament requires. And so it is just great to have a supportive administrator like yourself, especially one who is also a chess parent, because then you really know kind of what it takes to and what the experience is like on the kids' end.
Yeah.
So that gives you a good insight as to what you need to do on the logistics end. So yeah,
nerve-wracking on the parents too to wait on the results. So I know that part.
Right, exactly. It's kind of it's just like it's probably a unique experience as a parent, because chess just has some sort of quirky things about it compared to like a physical sport or anything else. I mean, a lot of people who are watching, a lot of parents who are watching, they may, feel like they don't know at all what's going on. They don't know what they're looking at. You know what I mean? So it's kind of unique like that, different than a spectator sport like football.
Yeah. Well, and as a parent too, it's one of those moments where you just have to let go and let your child fend for themselves, in the competition. And I know that was the one thing I remember at the South Haven Arena is seeing all the table full of kids, and my kid was probably about 40 yards away out there at the table. I had no idea if my son was doing well in the chess match or not. I didn't know if he was in trouble. So it's just one of those. It's a learning experience for them and also for parents, because you have to let them go and let them fly a little bit on their own during the tournament. So
those are my favorite chess parents. The ones who don't know what's going on in the game, who don't, get overly involved with, you should have done this, you should have done that. All they know is whether their kid got a good breakfast, they got some good sleep, they know whether they won or lost, but don't get overly involved in the actual game.
Right, yeah.
What'd you say, Alex? Sorry.
Like they have to sharpen their pencils.
Right.
Parents ask me, what can I do to help my kid? I don't know how to play chess. What can I do? And I just make sure they go to sleep on time, eat breakfast, and sharpen their pencils. And that's like the best thing you can do for them,
That's right. Pat them on the back. When you can be there to encourage them, encourage them.
That's right. It's the coach's job. It's my job to be strict.
It's experiences. In DeSoto County, we've always provided this tournament as an experience opportunity. If we happen to make some amazingly wonderful chess players and out of the tournament, that's wonderful, and we have done that over the years. But mostly, we have taught an awful lot of children the fundamentals of the game, and provided them this experience. They have to be brave to have registered to play these total strangers online in front of an audience. They're working through all those different issues, and they have this opportunity to develop leadership through chess. And then if they want to take it to the next level and learn to be an exceptional player, then I'm all for it. But in the meantime, we've done an awful lot of wonderful things for them by giving them this opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree with all of that. And Mr. Usselton, we had a former DeSoto County championship champion here on here who is now an administrator in Arkansas, a school vice principal. So yeah, she said that Morgan Taylor, her name is, and she said that chess taught her a lot, just like you were saying, how to think ahead and all sorts of things that have informed the decisions she's had to make in her personal and professional life. And so it's just I've seen a lot of people like that. A lot of kids who play chess, who play scholastic chess, and then they end up giving back like that. They end up that they have a strong relationship with their coach or their chess teacher, and they really see what chess can do for them, and then they end up giving back, becoming teachers whether in a formal or informal setting. And so I think that that's great to have that culture. I mean, chess is there's so much to learn and know in chess, and so if you play chess, you're going to have to learn a lot from other players. You can't do it all by yourself. You're going to have to learn a lot from other players, from the experience. And so you get a good insight as to how much needs to be learned and how much needs to be taught. That kind of inspires you to pass that on to other players, to teach them, so I just like that. I mean, I'm a teacher myself, so that was definitely the case for me. So
Is
awesome.
Mr. Usselton still with us?
Yeah. Well, look, I appreciate the invitation, and hope everything goes well today. I know it will.
Well, thank you for your support. Thank you.
Thank y'all for doing this for the kids.
Yeah, we had someone come by in the Twitch chat thanking Mr. Usselton for supporting DeSoto County Chess. Attic No Basement, which is probably Attica, which Ms. Nelson has referred to a few times.
It might be Atticus Nelson. I'm not sure of his passcodes, but that would be it's a possibility.
It sounds like Atticus. Yeah, it's probably Atticus. Atticus was one of my students at DeSoto Central back in the day. I had Atticus and Silas both there.
That's right. I was going to say. And
I saw Walker at the game the other night, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him. He was at the football game the other night.
He was. Walker's a football player and a chess player, and he's getting his doctoral degree in history now, Mr. Usselton. All of my sons went through DeSoto Central High School, where Mr. Usselton was an outstanding principal, and I'm so appreciative for his leadership at that. And now at the district level, for supporting chess district-wide. I appreciate that. And supporting all the other things that are small, relatively small, but mean an awful lot to certain types of students that are going to grow up to be leaders someday. And
all these things add up.
They do.
Successful student. Appreciate your leadership, Ms. Nelson. Appreciate all you do.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Usselton. Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Well, y'all have a great day. Thank y'all.
You too. Take care.
We also have Opie's mom in the Twitch chat from a non-chess player. This is so wonderful. Thank you all for the behind the scenes to get this tournament going today. I
Yeah,
assume
great.
based on the Twitch name, it's Opie's mom.
Right, so that's Obis would be, isn't that Olive Branch Intermediate School, or is that how it's spelled, Jonathan?
OP, like OPIES. So there's probably a player
As in-
named OP.
Oh, okay.
Well, she just wants to remain anonymous, probably.
I see.
So she's, but a lot of our communities are like Mayberry in DeSoto County. But Alex, if we have a minute before we want to get to the end of a round, I will say my favorite thing to teach young players with the chessboard is leadership, because the king alone can do nothing. He has to have his team around him doing the jobs they were designed to do, to achieve the goals, to protect the king and to checkmate the other king. And it's a real wonderful way to talk about leadership and to teach leadership to third grade students and to older students as well.
That's a really good point, and
Mr. Usselton does not have the time to do what I've been doing for the last few weeks, and none of us had the skills to do what you're doing. So it took a team of people to make this happen. But with his support, had he not given us the support, we wouldn't have been able to make this happen.
Totally, yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. Just as a chess teacher, I hear what you're saying. Like when I see kids who their first instinct is to just, like, let's say, bring out their queen and just move their queen over and over and over again or something like that. They need to learn that the pieces work together, they coordinate, and in order to really play as well as you can, you need to have your pieces working together. In fact, as Jonathan is pointing out, just in this game that we're looking at, like Black has both of his rooks working together, like one is supporting the other. And if you just looked at the rooks on their own, you might think that like one of them is sort of blocking the other and that the one in the back is not doing anything, but it actually is playing a very important role even without moving. The rook in the back is supporting the rook in the front, and when the rook in the front comes down, it can actually checkmate white here if the player playing Black ends up seeing that move here. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
I think this is the last game. If it isn't, there's one more. He didn't see it, but there's one more game that looked like it was about over. So after this game, I think the round is done. It looked like White's kind of crazy attack didn't work out, but there were lots of difficult positions earlier.
Game where White played before, right?
Yeah, this is the same game.
Okay, so just looking at the time here, guys, 10:45. If this is the last game, that means that we've saved another 20, at least 20 minutes on this round as well, which means that we're ahead of schedule, which is always nice. So that is one advantage of online tournaments over in-person tournaments, is because you don't have the physical boards that need to be reset up and cleaned off or whatever, and because you don't have to have the physical pairing sheets printed out and everything, things can run a little bit more quickly than an in-person tournament. Of course, there's nothing like being at an in-person tournament where you get to just be around the other players and feel the physical energy there. But yeah, it does look like we will probably finish a little bit ahead of schedule today, which is nice.
This tournament in many ways was a lot easier on me and my back than most tournaments are, but I can remember 25 years back, it's just easier for a 30-year-old elementary teacher to set up a chess tournament than a 55-year-old director to set up a chess tournament.
Right.
But especially when the tournament has grown to a few hundred children as opposed to maybe 100 children.
There are currently 21 other kids watching this game. So in a real tournament, having 21 kids clustered around one board is a bit of a traffic jam. But doing it online makes it a lot easier to watch the other games.
That's right. That's right. That's great. And those 21 kids probably should be in the tournament and didn't.
Well, they are in the tournament. The round is just over. Right. So they're waiting for the next round.
Okay. Well, I know we had some students who did not complete that process by this morning so that they could play for their team, and that's sad, but maybe we'll be able to get all those little kinks worked out before our middle school tournament that will be on December 8th.
Yeah, totally. yeah, those are both good points about how there are definitely some advantages to having an online thing, both the, the physical strain on people's back and yeah, the ability for dozens of people to watch one game without needing to, throw their elbows. Okay, so in this game, the player playing white, who I need to look up this player, M Doggo. I'm going to see who this is here. M Doggo is Micah, who goes to DeSoto Central. That's the player playing white here. And the player playing black, M.A. Powell, is
Is that
Michael.
Micah Mutter?
Yes.
Micah Mutter. That's an unusual last name, and I feel certain that I used to teach with his mother several years ago. And his father has also read Knowledge Bowl questions for us at Knowledge Bowl tournaments, which is another thing I support. And it's happy to see him grow up. I remember when his mother was expecting him.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And this player playing black, Michael, goes to Fernando. And so, but I just wanted to point out about Micah that he's really used all of his time. I mean, look at his time here. He's down to just seconds. But as I pointed out at the beginning of the tournament, the good thing about having this 5-second bonus per move is that if you look at Micah's clock, with every move he makes, he gets 5 seconds added back on. So he's sort of able to stay alive for as long as he wants to on the clock just by moving within 5 seconds. Unfortunately, Michael playing black is pretty much chasing his king down. So it looks pretty certain that black is going to win this game. And if Jonathan is right that this is the last game going on, let's take a look. Yes, that was the last game. Okay, so we're in the 5-minute break period right now. We're in the 5-minute break period right now. The next round will start at right about 10:55 or 10:54. And Jonathan, let's see, how many perfect 2 out of 2s do we have right now? 11, just like you said. And can you also check, Jonathan, that, right, I just wanted to look at the bottom of the standings and see if everybody is playing all the rounds.
Yep. Everyone's played. There's only one bye, right, because we had an odd number. And there's only been one draw all tournament, which was insufficient material with just the Kings. So, if everyone in this tournament were master level players, probably a third or a fourth of these games would be draws at minimum. But in scholastic play, it's very common, like I said, to see basically no draws in the whole tournament, except for like a stalemate maybe, or insufficient material or something like this.
Yeah, that's a good point. And just to reiterate what I was saying earlier, it's from the tournament director's perspective, it's a little bit of a relief to see not many draws, because that simplifies the standings, right? The fewer draws there are, the more likely we are. Well, I guess that's not completely true what I'm saying. I guess it would help us to have at least one more draw among the perfect scores. But after that, we want the perfect scores to start winning out so that we just have one clear winner. Anyway, all right, guys, maybe we should take a quick break here. Jonathan, if you need to take a quick break, I can keep things going if you need. But yeah, in fact, while we're waiting for the next round to start, I just want to remind everybody a few things about the Memphis Chess Club here. So the Memphis Chess Club has been around actually since the 19th century, since 1877. But we are just recently moved into a new, beautiful, permanent chess club location here in downtown Memphis at 195 Madison Avenue, on the same block as the Memphis Redbird Stadium. And we are open Wednesday through Sunday, and we have a cafe with a full menu of food and drink. And it's a great place to hang out and have a meal, play some chess. We've got beautiful chess tables that you may be able to see behind me. And we've got a chess library, and we do run some chess tournaments and classes. And so it's just a beautiful place that we welcome all DeSoto County players to come visit whenever you get the chance. We'd love to see you here. And if you have any questions about the Memphis Chess Club, first of all, our website is memphischessclub.com. We're also on Facebook. We're on Twitch, as you must know if you're tuning into us right now. We're on Lee Chess, where this tournament is being held. We run online tournaments here. And if you have any specific questions, I would be happy to answer any emails you want to send to me at alex@memphischessclub.com. But yeah, check out our website, memphischessclub.com, and you may have also seen some pieces on us recently in the Memphis Commercial Appeal and Live at 9 TV spot, and I think we've got a piece on us that's coming out next month in the Memphis Flyer, and I think the Memphis Business Journal. So anyway, all I'm trying to say is that everybody's talking about us, and you should come check us out whenever you get the chance. We'd love to hang out, play chess with you here at the Memphis Chess Club. So, oh, and we also have cool swag in case you want to be a walking endorsement of us. We have caps, shirts, hoodies. We've got very stylish and comfortable face masks too, with Memphis Chess Club on them. So, if you're looking to really up your chess-related style, we've got what you need here. All right, so next round is about to start here in just a few seconds. This is round 3. It's about to begin. We've still got 45 players. And now the join button no longer shows up, right? So it is no longer possible for anyone to join late. So these 45 players that are in this tournament, this is the final slate of players here. And so now that we're in round 3, we're really seeing, you know, the stronger players in the tournament are really facing off against each other. So on the top boards, we're going to see probably some closer games. And those games are probably likely to last longer too. Often the later rounds in the tournament last longer because the players are more evenly matched, not just the players on the top boards, but throughout the tournament, the players are more evenly matched because that's how the Swiss pairing system works, is that you get paired with someone else that has the same score with you. So in the first round, everybody starts off with 0, and so it's a little bit more random who you're paired with. But in the third round like this, if you have 2 out of 2 and you're playing someone else with 2 out of 2, you're much more likely to be closer to that player in ability. And so the game is probably going to be closer. And same thing if you have 1 out of 2, or if you have 0 out of 2, then you're going to be playing someone else with that score. And again, you're more likely to be roughly, you know, similar to them in ability level. So the games are closer. That usually means that they last longer. So, but fortunately, our first 2 rounds finished a little bit early, which means that we have some extra time. Yeah, Jonathan is pointing out a really good opportunity that White just missed. He could have, instead of castling, moved his bishop to that highlighted square b5 and pinned Black's queen to his king, and he can actually still do it here if he spots the opportunity, and he does. He sees it. Very good. All right, so this is Preston Reefers again, playing White, who I believe goes to DeSoto Central. And yeah, Preston saw this opportunity. Can we highlight that pin again, Jonathan? Because a pin means that the queen cannot move off of that diagonal because then Black would be in check. So that gives Preston time to just basically capture that queen for a bishop. So now Preston has an extra queen for a bishop, which is 9 for 3. So Preston is up 6 points, which is a very large advantage. So Preston has managed to get an early lead in this game, which is a good accomplishment for him. Also, I mean, take a look at Preston's position, right? He's got 4 pieces developed, now 5 pieces developed, right? Developed meaning brought into the game. And he's also castled. And look at Black. Black has not done those things. Black's king is still in the center. That's why he's getting attacked right now. And Black has not developed as many pieces as White. So these positional factors are basically what make the difference in who wins the game between two experienced players, right? It's not just a matter of who is capturing more material. It also comes down to things like who's developing more pieces and who has castled their king to a safer place. So Preston is doing a great job at all of that. Yeah, Preston's got a lot of good moves here. He's got some good checks. Preston is playing with a lot of energy in this game, so I'm impressed with how he's doing. Let me look up who this player is that's playing black. DJ9. Let's see here. Okay, so that is DJ from Hernando High School is the player playing black here. And he is basically trying to stay alive against Preston here. But Preston looks like he's got him by the tail. All right, why don't we take a look at some other games that are going on here. Looks like a couple games have already finished, but let's see what else we can see. What looks good to you, Jonathan?
This one looks about even.
All right, let's see here. So we've got this McCool player who we looked up already. I think that player's name is Riley. And then the player playing black, Neil the Goat. Let's see who that is. Neil the Goat is Neil from Center Hill High School. And right, this is Riley from DeSoto Central. Okay, so DeSoto Central playing white against Center Hill playing black. Okay, so Riley has an opportunity to capture a knight for free here if he is looking sharp, which he is. He spots it, and now Riley is up a piece. And as Jonathan's pointing out here, he's also stopping black from being able to castle. So that is a big advantage. And Neil is going to have to kind of squirm to get out of this. Cool. What other games we got going on here, Jonathan? All right, let's look up these players. We've got Ren Dempsey. Okay, Ren also goes to Center Hill. And this player playing black ZFX is Joel, who goes to South Haven. So this matchup is Center Hill against South Haven. And let's look at the positions. So, so it looks like white managed to airlift his knight in and capture black's rook in the corner. But now his knight is trapped. But even if his knight can't escape, getting a rook for that knight is a good operation for him. So the overall count, you can look next to the players, above and below the players' clock times, you can see that white has an extra rook and a pawn versus black's extra knight. So that means that white is up 3 points. So even if you don't know anything about chess, you can kind of roughly follow along and see who is ahead in points by just looking at that point count below or above the player's clock, which is handy if you're following along from home. So white is ahead in points, but like I pointed out in the other game, black has a lot more pieces developed, and I like that move that black just played, bringing his knight in at least a vaguely threatening place. And so that could make up for white having an advantage in material, the fact that black has more pieces developed, because those pieces, it's like if you look at some of white's extra pieces, they're like stuck in the corner not doing anything. And so if he never moves those pieces, then they're never going to work for him. They're never going to achieve anything. Whereas black, even though he's down in points, the pieces that he does have are like in very active spots, and that could very easily pay off for him. And white could actually be in trouble here. So I would say that considering, in the scholastic game, I would say that piece activity is even more important than material a lot of the time. So, okay, so definitely an interesting game that we'll want to check back on at some point. Let's see what else we've got going on.
This is the same game we were just looking at. White still can't black still can't castle.
Right. Yeah. Looks uncomfortable. And his knight is pinned too, right? Can't even take that bit. And then, yeah, meanwhile, white just wants to. Exactly. Very good. Jonathan is good at predicting good at predicting moves here.
I hang out with a lot of kids. I know what they want.
Right. He's a kid whisperer. So yeah, well, that knight is threatening to come in and take the pawn on c7, and then black would not be able to move his king. Okay, that's actually a good move by black that he just played, because now his king actually can move to f8 safely. So black is still trying to survive here. Black is still trying to survive. Very cool. Very cool. Do we have any 3 out of 3 so far? We do. We have 2. And in fact, I'm going to look up these players. Okay, I think we've looked these guys up before. So Dog Boy is Preston. Preston goes to DeSoto Central. Tyler, did we look him up yet? Tyler Pine goes to Olive Branch. Okay, so we've got one perfect score from DeSoto Central. And we've got one perfect score from Olive Branch. And then we've got at least, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 more players that could have a perfect score, I think. Yeah, I think we could end up with 6 perfect scores total going into the last 2 rounds, unless there's some draws among these players. So 6 perfect score, 6 3 out of 3s would mean we could have up to 3 4 out of 4s, and then again up to 2 5 out of 5s. So I don't know if everybody else agrees with me that having a tie for first is less satisfying than having a clear winner for first. That's definitely how I feel, though. What do you think, Jonathan?
I'm at a point now where even if you don't have enough rounds, the amount of draws in the tournament mean you almost always either have, if you have a tie for first, it's not with perfect scores, right? It's like 4.5 out of 5 or something. So it doesn't really show up. But as a kid, I didn't really like, the computer decides who wins based on who we played, but I don't get to pick who I play, so that didn't seem very fair to me. But in most tournaments, you don't get this kind of situation, right? Because you need a number of players less than 2 to the x, where x is the number of rounds you have, right? It's like an exponential. And normally you have 5 rounds and like 30 kids, and that's enough. 32 is the cutoff for 5 rounds because it's 2 to the 5th. Yeah. And so a lot of the tournaments I played in as a kid were like 20 people in a section, so there were never 2 perfect scores at the end of the event.
Well, Jonathan, in DeSoto County, it's very common for us to have tied scores. Maybe less common to have perfect scores, but tied scores. And later today, you may know Avery Brewer. He is very active locally in chess, and he is one of ours, and he is the only person to win the DeSoto County Chess Championship 3 times. Oh, wow. And he was also never defeated in a game, but one year he did come in second because of the computer tiebreaker. But he did win it 3 times, and he'll be speaking with us later today. So, but normally our tournament is at the high school level, we'll have 80 teams play. This is a much smaller tournament than we typically have. And like you just said, if you're only going to do 5 rounds, you can't get to the end without some ties. But we also have to meet the buses. The bus, school is very driven by the clock. And I mean the clock that runs the bell, not the clock that runs the chess game. One overrides the other. So that's one reason why some people would consider this almost speed chess, but it serves our purpose well, and it gives lots of children the opportunity, lots of students the opportunity to play in a tournament.
25 plus 5 is becoming more popular even at the highest levels of chess. So
yeah, these are a lot of great points that I want to touch on that you guys are making here. So Jonathan is pointing out that in the tournaments that Jonathan and I play-in, it's very rare for there to be a perfect score. I mean, the higher you get, in higher level tournaments, the less likely it is that there's going to be one player that just dominates and beats everybody every time, like we're talking about Avery did in the tournaments. And so, yeah, it would be less likely to have that situation. But then Emily also pointed out that it's also a matter of just how many players are in the tournament, right? When you have a very large tournament like this tournament, is when it's being held in person, then ties are just going to be unavoidable, when you have a really large tournament. And in some of the higher level tournaments that Jonathan and I play in, that, fewer of them are that big. There are some high level tournaments that are very big, like the World Open and other big national level tournaments like that.
But they have like 11 rounds or something crazy
right, they
like that.
They also have a lot. So when you have a big tournament like this, that still only have 5 rounds, then yeah, ties are very common. So if we don't have a tie, if we don't have ties today, then that'll actually be the exception rather than the rule. Yeah, I forgot that Avery was joining us today. It'd be great to talk with him. Avery actually recently joined the Memphis Chess Club, and I see him around here a few days a week. So it's great to see him here. I don't think he's played in any of our tournaments yet, but I've been after him to do that. So I'm sure he will soon, now that he's joined. But I see him in here playing, casual games for fun. I've played him a few games last week when he stopped in. I believe Avery is now working at FedEx. So yeah, he's experiencing that fun adult experience of like having to work all day and then show up at the chess club and and try to play some chess when you've already spent all your energy for the day at work. So yeah, he's having that fun experience now. Anyway, okay, let's take a look at who's playing this game. So we've got Doug. Let's look that player up. And Doug is Nicholas, who goes to South Haven. And then we've got this anonymous player who goes to...
What a crazy game. Look at this checkmate in the middle of the board. White's threatening mate on g7.
Oh, wow.
Knight d4 mate covers the f3 square. Yeah, this is...
Very cool. I like that a lot. Cool. Okay, how many games are left here?
8.
Okay, so now we've got 3 perfect scores. Riley, Preston, and Tyler.
Now we're up to 4.
Oh, now we're up to 4. ZFX. Who was that ZFX player? I just said their name a second ago. That's Joel Trujillo, who goes to South Haven. Okay, very cool. That anonymous player from DeSoto Central has 2.5. So yeah, I mean, I've been talking a lot about the players with perfect scores, but I mean, the players that are a little bit behind, like the players with 2.5 out of 3, are still definitely in pole position and could potentially end up winning the tournament if there's some draws among the perfect scores. So we definitely can't count them out. Yeah, but in a really big tournament, of course, like the Scholastic Nationals or something like that, if you draw one game, it's almost like you're out of contention for first place, right?
Right. I won the K3 under 800 section as a 3rd grader with 2 perfect scores, 2 7 out of 7. It was just a huge section. So we had co-champions where both players won every game.
Yeah, you want to know something amazing is that when I was in 9th grade, which was, I guess, 2003, maybe, spring 2003, I was in 9th grade and I played in the Scholastic Nationals, it was the grade nationals. So I was just playing in the 9th grade section. And I lost a game, but then I actually still ended up tying for first. It was really remarkable. I had 5 out of 6 going into the last round and I won. And then there were like, I think 6 players that had 5.5 out of 6. For some reason, there were no perfect scores. There were no 6 out of 6s, but there were 6 players with 5.5 out of 6, and they all drew each other in the last round. It was like a blood pact. They all drew each other, and then they all finished with 6 out of 7. And then, you know, players who were, you know, like weaker than them, like me and another player, ended up winning our last game and still tying with them. So there was like a 7 or 8 way tie for first place with 6 out of 7 in that 9th grade section. And I remember those players that were above me, and then I ended up tying with them. I remember them realizing the error of their ways, making those gentlemen's draws in the last round, because yeah, there was a big tie. Now I think I still finished like in 6th or 7th place on tie breaks, but I was just so jazzed that I could call myself a national co-champion there for my grade. But yeah, I never won first place outright in any of those national tournaments like you did, Jonathan. So it's quite a feat.
It was an undersection, so
It's still, those are no walk in the park either. So, all right. So we've got 6 games going on. We've got another perfect score now. This player, David Red, is it? David Red, yes. David also goes to South Haven High School. So David and Joel, who is the player in 5th place right now, they both go to South Haven. Preston goes to DeSoto Central. Riley goes also to DeSoto Central. And then Tyler goes to Olive Branch. Okay, so we've got the players in the lead so far are definitely distributed among a few different high schools. So there's not one clear powerhouse here as far as I can tell, which is nice. This is an interesting end game that we've got in this game, Jonathan. This rook and 2 pawns against rook end game.
yeah, White had some much stronger moves earlier that would have won a piece, but it happens, you know. Whether or not these pawns can be stopped is... I think this is a theoretical win for Black, but it's not so easy always to play correctly.
Oh yeah, these end games are quite tricky. So I like Black's last move, rook c4, defending his pawns, but he's got to find a way to make progress here. The problem is that, yeah, exactly, just like that. No matter what he does, then White starts harassing his king with checks. So it's going to be hard for Black to keep everything locked down and under control and still find a way to make progress. But yeah, it's going to have to involve Black bringing his king up and over to the king side, which is going to be a sort of potentially long and fraught journey for that king. So we'll see if the player playing Black, let's look up this player here. This is Ben, who goes to DeSoto Central, and the player playing White.
White is defending quite well. I mean, White is making this hard for Black.
Yeah, this player Joseph, who goes to South Haven, playing White, is doing well, and that's a good move that he just played, putting the king in between the Black pawns to sort of restrain both of them. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right here, Jonathan. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that White is going to hold the draw here. Definitely now that his pawns are sort of restrained like this.
And now you just dropped one of them, so...
Right, I think they're both going to fall. Well, that move was not good.
No, you should have just played king takes g4, right? And then the rook.
White's rook was already in its best position, which is behind Black's pawns. And in fact, White should just move his rook back behind White's pawns. Black behind Black's pawns. But the best place for a rook is generally behind pawns, because when the rook is behind the pawns, then as the pawns advance, the rook becomes stronger and stronger. Yeah, now this is not so clear. Look at this. So black probably will give that check. I mean, black needs to give that check. No, but then, yeah, no, but then black, then white will have a desperado.
Yeah, you're right, right. So.
No, I think this is still a draw, actually, even though white has kind of.
Yeah.
If it, let's say black moves his king, then white actually has a really cool tactic where he can just try to give up, and he can do it here too. He can just try to give up his rook, because then it would end in a stalemate if black takes.
And there's no shelter for black's king, so like check, and no matter where the king goes, white will just continue to check with the rook, because if he ever takes it, it's stalemate. But this might be good enough too.
Yeah, maybe. Although, again, I would have just gone for that. But this was good enough. Yeah. But that was a cool tactic, the desperado rook, because to give himself up.
I don't know. Can black move the king in one tempo at a time, and then maybe try to force the rook away so that there's. If he advances, like, even if he brings the king over, the rook comes down, and if the king tries to come up here, there's checks and there's no shelter from the checks.
Yeah, no, I think it's still for sure possible for white to draw, but yeah, no, anything can happen. You know, anything can happen. There's definitely still chances here for black to win. So we'll see. Jonathan, would you mind taking over for 1 second? I'm going to get myself some water.
Sure, no problem. We're just going to hang out and watch this game, I think, so.
Yeah.
And now, white can now play check and win the pawn. So, oh, he didn't see it, but rook g8 check would have won the pawn, and then we have a drawn in game. But I'm pretty sure this leads to a forced draw. Here, I'll turn my camera on so that people can see me at least. You were going to say something?
I was just saying hi. Earlier, he was talking about the quick win with the queens. And what I see in young players, maybe not the high school level so much, but maybe, again, in this case, is players that want to play with their rooks and really don't realize how easy a rook is to see coming. And the story that I use behind that is, if you think of a castle, the castle is always on the hill. The king is not hidden. The castle is not hidden. It's easy to see. Everybody knows where that is. And when you think about a rook and how a rook moves, you're not sneaking up on anybody.
Right.
Where some of the other pieces might. And it's hard sometimes for little kids to understand that.
Alex, there's a really interesting. I was thinking, what if black just played king f3? Mm-hmm. And then after rook takes h3, the rook just comes over and it's like forced mate. Yeah. So even after king h3, I mean, white can keep playing check, right? But white couldn't have taken the pawn because black has mate on the back rank.
Back on h3, right?
Right. I mean, white doesn't. No, the rook was on g2 and the king was on h1. Right. Oh. Back in. Not this position. This position. If black had played here, rook takes loses because of rook a2 and mate on the back rank. But white can, of course, just keep playing check with the rook. And black has nowhere to hide the king. So I still think this is a draw, but that was a really interesting little shot. Just to give up the pawn, just to play the mate the other way.
The end of this muffin is good. It's sentimental.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a draw. I mean,
I liked Emily's point about how a rook is easy to easy to see coming. Like even for like a beginner player, you know, the way the rook moves is kind of intuitive and easy to understand. Whereas like some of the other pieces can be a little bit more deceptive, like the
But I think that's why young players are comfortable playing rooks. But I don't know how many times I've seen young players move one of the rook's pawns out, move their rook up 3 spaces. Yeah. And, you know, once you explain it, you're not sneaking up on anybody. It kind of keeps them from doing it a little bit because they want to sneak up on you. They understand the benefits of being snuck up on and sneaking up on their opponent.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
I'm pretty sure it's threefold after king f3, rook f7, but yeah, this is definitely a draw.
Hold on a second, guys. I gotta get some bad news to some people that are trying to come up in the chest up today. We're not open.
Let's see. Let's take a look at maybe some of the other games. I think this one is like a forced draw at this point. There's two other games still going on. In this one, black is up a rook. There's some people chatting. You can't see it in the stream because I have the chat cropped out, but some of the kids are hanging out and chatting in the spectator room of the game. Once there are only a few games left, they tend to coalesce in the remaining games, and sometimes there's some chat going on. The players cannot see the chat, and neither can you because it's not on the stream, but there's some chatting going on in the game from the players who are done with their rounds, which is pretty normal.
Oh, good, Jonathan. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that even if the players can't chat in the main tournament room, that they can chat in the spectator room of one of the games. That's good that they at least have some way to chat with each other.
Yeah. Let's see. This game whites up a ton of material.
It's like best that way, that they can only chat if they're watching someone else's game, like when their game is done. They can't chat in the main room while their game is plugged out.
Right. And of course, the players can't see their own spectator room, right? They can only see it after the game's over.
Yeah, that's ideal. Because, you know, a lot of players in our Memphis Chess Club, it's like they're chatting while they're playing. Just like they're distracting themselves.
I do that. I mean, how can I resist? You know, the chat room's right there.
Yeah, Jonathan, you're definitely one of the culprits of that. I guess I am too.
Mostly, I'm just telling the kids to behave, though. I mean,
how many games we have going on here, Jonathan? We've only got 2.
How did that game end? Was it a draw?
Oh yeah, look it up.
There are no draws. So, who were the players?
Huh?
Do you remember?
Wasn't that's a good question. Let me look real quick. Oh, one of them was Ben's new.
Oh yeah, it ended in a checkmate.
Oh, let's see how that game ended, because
The
now he
king-
has a.
He took the pawn and it's made here.
Wow, what a finish! That is incredible.
Yeah.
What a fin-
Interesting mate. I mean, he can still do the same thing, but he really, like here, this is simpler. Right, black just, once the king has shelter behind the rook, black just pushes the pawn to check and then queens, but very interesting mate at the end of that game.
That was fascinating. That was really cool. Okay, so that player, Ben, is now one of the perfect scores who won that fascinating game. And if you take a look at the tie breaks here, there's some players whose tie break is 6. Or I guess their first tiebreak is 3, and then their second tiebreak is 6. Oh no,
that's
their
right.
score.
Yeah, that's their score. And then I mean, these as the rounds go, they'll actually go up. Like it was 6 and then 2 5s, but as their previous opponents finished their games, their tiebreaks are updated to compensate.
Right. Yeah, true. But it kind of puts pressure. Like if you look at the player in 6th place is EFX, who I think is Joel from South Haven. His tiebreaker is only 3. That means I think that his 3 opponents only have 1 out of 3. Each of them has only 1 out of 3.
On average, but yeah.
On average, right. And so he is in a tough spot because he can win out and still have inferior tiebreaks. So,
Well, he will have inferior tiebreaks if he ties. I mean, it would be hard to imagine where he could catch up in the next 2 rounds.
well, he could sort of be rooting for the other player, of course, to draw and drop down.
Right. If he
Right.
wins clear, then he can win. But
Right.
in any
right,
tiebreak situation, he should lose on tiebreaks.
Right. And that's, like you're saying, Jonathan, that's one complaint of a lot of players when there's a tie. They complain, like, well, I didn't have any control over who I played, so why should I be punished for that?
Well, I used to actually go around before each round. I'd find each of the people I played before and wish them luck and like give them advice because I want them to win the rest of their games, right? I've already played that guy. The better he does, the better my tiebreaks are. So I would literally like follow people around and be like, oh, in that last game you should have done this, and because I want them to win. It makes my tie breaks better. Sorry, you're kind of cut out there, Alex. So you'll have to repeat that.
I have encouraged that same thing, but I never really thought about it from the same perspective that you're thinking about it.
Oh no, I just want to win. I mean, it's.
Yes, I'm sure, and I'm proud of you, Jonathan. I love those competitive kids, but we also want to just have good decorum and good sportsmanship, and so I'm glad to see that you actually did that. You were a good role model for everybody. But I just never quite thought about it from that same perspective.
It is in a player's own best interest to.
And it is smart. It is a very smart thing to do. You didn't invent the rules, so I'm glad that you learned to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
I'll remember that in the future as I'm coaching kids.
Oh, I'm obsessive about the rules. Alex knows, like, I'm very strict about tournament etiquette. I read the USCF handbook in like 2nd or 3rd grade because I wanted to know how all the tiebreak systems work and everything. And I pay attention to that when I play, and I have ever since I was a kid. These things matter. They're not just arcane rules in a book. Like, they determine the winner.
I will say that I've observed Jonathan use that knowledge of the rules to good effect as a coach. In fact, last year at the state team championship, Jonathan and I were both there as coaches with schools that we were coaching. And there was a dispute involving some of Jonathan's players. I think that there was a claim that one of them had suggested a move to one of the other players or something like that. And Jonathan actually got the tournament director's ruling overturned because of something that he pointed out in the rules.
So what happened was, this was White Station Middle School's team, and all of the kids on that team had previously been students of mine at Grahamwood, and their coach is an old chess mom that I've known for a long time. So they came to me for help. And what happened was one of the players played checkmate on the board, and then he couldn't tell if it was mate. So he turned to his teammate and asked, like, is this checkmate? And the other guy said yes. And the tournament director forfeited both of them for talking during the game. And the player who talked during his game was forfeited. That was fine with me. Okay, if you talk in the game, you get forfeited. But my argument was checkmate was on the board. The game was over. You can't forfeit a player. He didn't know it was mate, but the game is over. The players, don't have to agree or see that it's mate. And so that game got overturned, and they won 2.5 to 1.5. Whereas if the board that had checkmated had been forfeited, they would have lost that round. But you can't forfeit a player whose game has already finished. So yeah, I got that overturned. I was pretty mad. I argued with everyone involved in the tournament until someone brought out the rule book and we found it. But yeah, you got into the rules. It's important.
So they had already achieved checkmate, and
right.
Then someone continued to move.
Well, no, he played checkmate, but he couldn't tell if it was mate. So he asked his teammate, and his teammate said, "Yeah, that's mate," and they both got forfeited. But I got that fixed so that only the player whose game was still going on was forfeited, because the other game was already done.
If a game is indeed checkmate, and then someone asks for advice, and the other player says, yes, that is checkmate, technically, if it was indeed checkmate after all, then that ends the game. If it was a checkmate, that ends the game, and someone asking for advice after the game is technically already ended is not actually cheating. The game is
for what it's worth, I agree with Alex's interpretation of the rules.
Oh, yeah. So does the U.S. Chess Federation. So.
Yes, thank you. But what I did think, this would be an interesting wrinkle. What if checkmate was achieved, and occasionally, especially in 4th grade games, they don't know they have checkmate, right. And they continue to move. What is the exact rule then?
Well, then the game continues. I mean,
again, continues. If somebody moves and they give up their checkmate and nobody calls it, it just goes on. Okay, right. That's probably how it's happened many times.
Yeah, and especially if the players are not notating their games, then there's no evidence that checkmate was achieved. So if the players don't agree on the result of the game and they keep playing, then yes, exactly. So, but that's just another reason why it's useful to be notating your
Saved, so you can
point,
listen to it
because
later
then
if you're-
you have a record of what happened. You can go back and prove that actually, you know, it was checkmate or whatever.
Mhm.
If there's a dispute, you have evidence to present there. So
We're currently on our last game. This is very
Okay.
complicated. I mean, white's up a ton of material, but black like has some threats here
I'll see if I can, I thought I
that are
sent
worth
sent you
looking
the
at.
link earlier and must have forgotten because I got a bit distracted.
I mean, white should win, but half of his pieces are kind of not doing anything here.
this player playing white is Sydney from Fernando, and the player playing black is Logan from Center Hill. So Hernando versus Center Hill here in this last game for round 3. And yeah, as Jonathan's pointing out, it's a very interesting and unbalanced position where white is up a lot of points, technically speaking, but the pieces are in sort of unusual, almost random places, and white's king is potentially vulnerable. And so, yeah, definitely anything could happen. It's not clear, and both players are pretty even on the clock. They've both been taking a lot of their time and really thinking about each move. So yeah, this is a nail biter, this final one. So let's see, if I were playing, since it's black's move, if I were playing black here, yeah, I would be looking for a way to try to bring more of my pieces into the attack, closer to white's king. Something like that, right, exactly. I actually like that move that black played, because that knight would have been hanging otherwise if the bishop moved. So now black is ready to play like bishop b7, bishop f3 check. Of course, now white can take on f4. So yeah,
Right.
maybe.
So I was thinking, like, just ignore the knight. White has to go for something. Nothing should work here. So you have to go for whatever might work. But
Yeah, that's a good point. On the other hand, another thing is that black can now play bishop f5. Now
put the knight back on f5.
Now I might just put the knight back. Yeah, or still bishop b7, right? Still bishop b7 and bishop f3 check looks good. Or like rook f2. There's a lot of interesting possibilities here. Okay, so Logan does play bishop b7. So yeah, I think that objectively, white should still have everything.
Check this out. Bishop takes f4. Bishop f3 check. If white doesn't give up the queen, it's actually mate on f4.
Wow. Okay, so Jonathan's been doing good predictions all day here for what actually happened in the game. Maybe this prediction will also come true. White will take the pawn and actually get checkmated. That would be a fittingly exciting conclusion. Look.
Here we go.
Correct. Now let's see if Logan finds this bishop f3 check move.
Because even after he sacks the queen and takes on g3, white is still winning. Right, but here we go.
Jonathan is like a soothsayer. Like, he knows what's going to happen. He's inside the mind of the kid.
King c1. Bishop takes f4.
He's one with them.
Checkmate.
Exactly like Jonathan called it, guys. So for all your stock picks and proposition bets and everything else, all your betting needs, just contact Jonathan for a modest fee. He can predict what's going to happen in the future. He can read your palm. Okay, so let's go look at the standings, Jonathan. Let's see how many. That was the last game.
Yeah.
The next game is the next round 4 is going to start in 5 minutes, right around 11:40. So we're over half an hour ahead of schedule, which is nice.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Always good Always music to my ears, but of course the buses are not rolling today.
Um, man, I'm just impressed by how good Jonathan is at predicting what's going to happen in these games. It's good. It's like sorcery.
Well, he understands the student mind of chess.
Exactly. Exactly. Jonathan is a very experienced coach, even though Jonathan is only like 25 years old. He has like 15 years of coaching experience. So he's his dad, Mark Beatty, was the coach of Grahamwood Elementary School here in Memphis
wow.
for 20 years. And Jonathan has been like helping him out as assistant coach like since he was a student there. So yes, Jonathan is very.
That's wonderful. Grahamwood has a deep and well-respected reputation in chess and gifted education and all kind of things.
Absolutely. And I'm lucky enough to coach at White Station Middle School, where all the Grahamwood kids graduate and go to. So it's like
That's right.
I'm downstream of all of Jonathan and Mark's hard work, and I just inherit all of their strong players and try to do no harm to them,
Yeah, but once they get to about that 1500 level, you're a better coach for them. So I don't mind it so much. I can still teach at that level because I'm like 2100 or so, but I prefer to pass them on at about 7th or 8th grade. So it's nice to have someone in the city who's actually a stronger player. There were many years where my players would all get to 1500 and then stop. Because it's hard for me to teach someone above that level unless they're willing to put in a lot of work on their own. So
it's interesting, when I was in middle school, the chess club sponsor at my middle school was maybe a 900 player, but there were several of us at the school who got higher than that, by the time we finished middle school, right? I mean, I was up to whatever I was, I don't know, 16 or 1700 by the time I finished middle school, and so it was interesting, how that can happen at that age or at that level. But then it becomes harder to do that when you're at a higher level. And for a kid to get to Jonathan's level, it really does require some instruction or at least feedback from really strong players, experts.
When my dad took over at Grahamwood, he was maybe a 500 strength player. But his job was mostly logistics, right? Like it wasn't really teaching. And the kids who get really strong really have to put in the work. I used to have a student named Logan who in 1st grade would take 5 lessons a week with me every weekday after school and then play on the weekends. And unsurprisingly, he won the 1st grade national championship and became an expert in 4th grade. And now he's a master and in 7th grade. But I'm not really going to tell kids, well, don't worry, you can be a super strong player too if you just spend 15 to 20 hours a week playing and studying chess.
Hard to replicate that kind of work ethic, isn't it?
But Jonathan, had that student not had you as a coach, he would not have been the national champion, but he would have still been an outstanding player that rocked the city of Memphis, because a lot of players are self-taught. Now, they can't be introduced to the game, but they do read and research and play games and seek to find better players to play against. And, every once in a while we have our little shining star that comes out of the program. And it's not because we created a shining star, it's because we exposed children to something that they really found themselves in. And then they went on to build themselves into a shining star.
Yeah, totally. I mean, no matter what, whether you have a great coach or whether you're learning on your own, no one can do the work for you, obviously, so you have to be motivated, interested in the game,
It is nice when you have a coach that does play chess, is more than just a sponsor. But last time I checked, Karen Clark, who is the coach of DeSoto Central High School, was a non-chess player. Now,
Right.
she has been the coach of DeSoto Central High School for about 10 years.
That's pretty normal.
But she's the chess sponsor, and she really enjoys hanging out with those kids and facilitating for them. And she's taken them to state chess tournaments several times, and they take good care of her and helped her son be a better player. But if she's learned to play, it's within the last few years.
I'm almost more impressed by coaches like that than anyone else, because it's like, for someone who doesn't even play the game but is still able to appreciate and respect its benefits, and be willing to work to help their students, get those benefits. I find that very admirable.
Right. But we have lots of chess coaches who are just providing them an opportunity. And I'm thankful for that level of support, because without that level of support, they don't have that opportunity. We've got 2 schools that are not represented today, and there are chess players at those schools. And this is a crazy year. I certainly understand why a teacher or a chess sponsor can be stressed beyond their ability to do this extra thing. But sometimes it's about giving students an opportunity to have an experience. And then if they have a passion about that experience, they're on their own. But you gave them that opportunity. You launched the ship.
Yeah, I agree. Like for a non-chess player, running a chess club can be difficult, especially if they're in charge of finding outside materials for the kids to study and stuff. But like for me, it's pretty easy. I just kind of show up at the school, play some games with the kids, talk about the games to be played, and we win state. I mean, it doesn't require a lot of like outside work or study. But for a non-chess playing coach, some of which have really strong teams, it must be a completely different experience.
It is. And they do get beat by people that have coaches like you. And we're thankful for coaches like you when we can get somebody and that, plays. But we'll take somebody who can't play. We're happy too with that group.
Yeah, totally. I've met probably most or all of these DeSoto County coaches of these high school teams and the middle and elementary school teams too. And they've all been very nice people. I like them all. The ones who are chess players and the ones who are non-chess players, they're all very nice and supportive. So it's been, I've always had pleasant, positive experiences at all these DeSoto County tournaments, and really at all the tournaments I've been to around Mississippi. The Mississippi Scholastic Chess Association tournaments in Water Valley and Oxford and in Jackson and everywhere else I've been. It's just been nice folks all around the state. So
I agree. The Mississippi Scholastic Chess is an amazing organization run by wonderful community servants who are willing to give of their time for very little thanks. And because whenever you put yourself out there, there are mistakes that are going to be made, and people don't want to hear about your mistakes. But we have some wonderful people. Lately, it has been Jeff Bolheis and Denise Bolheis, and then the gentleman, John, from Water Valley, and Michael Cox, yes, from further down in the state. But, there are people that go back behind them too. But the time that those particular people have given lately is just amazing. And I, for one, just admire it so much, their willingness to serve in that way.
Totally. And it's the same situation in Tennessee. I grew up in Nashville, and it was the same type of service-minded volunteer people who were the engine of everything going on in Tennessee chess, especially scholastic chess. And some of them are still at it, like Chris Prosser with the Tennessee Chess Association, still running tournaments for kids and adults. And actually, Emily, this tournament that we're running right now is sort of a test run, because I'm setting up a similar tournament for the Tennessee State Championship on Saturday, which is also being held for the first time ever online. And so I'm doing the same thing for Chris.
Are we going to be streaming that too, Alex? Or?
Oh, that's wonderful, Alex. Thank you for doing that. But we were the first. Okay, we're going to take a lot of. In Mississippi, we've got the wonderful Mississippi Scholastic Chess, and we've got Mississippi Chess Association, which are 2 different organizations that really provide different services to the kids. And I'm getting familiar with the differences between the 2 and learning to respect the differences between those 2. I've been a long time affiliated with Mississippi Scholastic Chess and just love how they do things. But Mississippi Chess Associations are more rigid, and but they they offer something that our students have not been getting. So I'm happy about that too. But as far as I know, DeSoto County Schools is the first district virtual chess tournament to take place in what is now a Mississippi High School Activity Association sanctioned activity. And that is a big deal. I'm very thankful that you were able to pull this off, Alex.
Totally. No, it's fun for me. It's an adventure really to be able to try these new things. And
Well,
yeah.
you were the first. Now, next semester, we'll be having a state chess championship, but I believe we're using a different software and some other things. Hopefully, we'll be having one, but you're the first district championship.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very cool.
Yoo-hoo. Good job, Alex.
Thank you.
And Jonathan, thank you.
Anytime. I spent most of my childhood playing around with computers, and I'm just happy to be able to do it as more than just sitting alone and playing with a computer. So this stuff is fun for me.
Yeah.
Jonathan is the brains behind all of our Twitch channel and all of our streaming, and he sets all that up for us and set up a million other things for us here at the Memphis Chess Club too.
Well, I appreciate that. Jonathan, I am not a virtual native. I belong in the three-dimensional world, but I sure respect those who have created the virtual world for us, and especially that you can bring chess to the kids. That's great. And a tournament to the kids, not just chess. We can play chess, but a tournament experience adds an extra layer.
I spend much more time online than is healthy, but I'm just glad that it's useful.
Yeah, that's a great thing about Lee Chess, and there's other websites that also run chess tournaments as well, like chess.com and chesskid.com also have essentially all the same functionality as Lee Chess. But Lee Chess is, well, it's completely free, and that's one thing that I do like about it. And
oh yes,
it's also, I think the Lee Chess site was designed very well, and it's in some ways the easiest to use, in my opinion. Chess.com and chesskid.com have a lot of learning content, videos, and other ways for people to learn more about the game. But Lee Chess, just in terms of how well the site is run and just the community, it's all basically run by community, by volunteers, since it's an entirely free site. It's basically managed, it's like a co-op, it's managed by the participants themselves, people like Jonathan who are just computer whizzes.
I did not realize that.
Right.
That's
Well,
wonderful.
it's
Jonathan,
open source, right? So like
So
if there's
all
a
of them, thank you.
feature someone wants, they just program it themselves and upload it to the code base.
It has been very popular among the spotlight teachers who teach the 2nd through 6th grade students, and we like to see chess as part of what they do teach in the 2nd and 3rd grade. Not always, but we hope they teach chess in the 2nd and 3rd grade because it helps meet so many of the outcomes that the program is supposed to be teaching, like critical thinking and leadership. But also, they have been extremely complimentary of this software program because it has a tutorial aspect that I was not aware of when I first started talking to Alex. And it is well suited to young players that are learning to master the game and need to have things like, the castle isn't, or the rook isn't sneaking up on anybody, pointed out to them still. It's a very useful tool for those teachers who are themselves play competently, but not great players, but are great teachers and are trying to share this, and they appreciate it. So whoever the group is behind this, that cooperative of volunteers, they deserve a wholehearted thanks because they've done a great job.
Basically like a whole decentralized community of people from around the world who support it and develop it. And another cool feature that I've been using in the online after-school chess club that I've been running this year at White Station Middle School here in Memphis is there's a class feature where you can have all of your students' accounts like sort of centralized together in one place, and you can actually track their progress of like how many games they're playing each week, the progression of their rating, the progression of how many lessons they've been completing and other exercises and stuff. So they're all the time developing and adding, new features and new tools.
I have heard that too, especially from some of those teachers who are maybe not the very best. But one of the teachers who is a strong player and a coach of the group today, Alan Underwood, he only joined as a coach of the South Haven chess team about 6 weeks ago. But he was so excited when he realized that he could build a South Haven High School chess club within La Chess and make activity assignments and make playing assignments within his little club. And we have shared that now with some of the spotlight teachers who are starting to do some of the same things. And that's a very useful function. So whoever did that, thank you. His only complaint was that it took a little bit to find. He had to know to click here and then click here, and then he could create the club. So it took a foot.
Like most open source software, Lichess is by nerds for nerds. So it's not really as user friendly as something designed for the general public, but it tends to be more capable once its users are aware of its functionality. This is true of a lot of software in this vein.
Yeah, I think that was very well said, that once he got there, he found it very easy to use. But it took him 2 or 3 clicks to and he knew what he was looking for, but it took 2 or 3 clicks for him to get to what he was looking for. And then once he was there, he found it very easy to use and very helpful.
Right.
So again, thank you to the groups that's putting this together, because I certainly am not doing any of that.
The old line about software like this is that it's user friendly. It's just really picky about its friends. Right. So, you have to put in the work to figure out how this stuff works. It doesn't have a ton of public features, but in general, at some point, maybe we should discuss Chess Kid for programs specifically with elementary schools. With high schoolers and middle schoolers, they can start with Lichess even as beginners. That's fine, but there are specific elementary school oriented online chess curriculums that I use with my students. And once they get to a certain level, we just kind of stop using it because Lichess is better. But for a real beginner, especially a 6 or 7-year-old, chesskid.com is perfect. That's what I've always used.
Yeah,
So,
we have used that in the past, but one coach that I'm thinking about, I don't think she's tuned in today. She might be, Amanda Hendricks at DeSoto Central Elementary. She was telling everybody, just don't worry about any of the things you've used. Use this one. And Amanda has played chess for a while, and her children have played chess. And I think she may be a little like I am. We don't necessarily aspire to be any better, but we want to be able to play the 5th grade a good game. And she knows the competence. She's competent, and she can guide a student through, use chess as a tool for herself. And was really happy to hear her, so happy that she discovered this new tool.
Yeah, no,
especially in this virtual world. So
everybody's going to have their own, every coach is going to have their own preference about which tool they like the best. I mean, it's good to be aware of the different options, Chess Kid versus Lichess. There's pros and cons to both. Like what Jonathan is saying, I would almost say it in a slightly different way, that sites like Chess Kid that are that are a business, they do a better job of sort of marketing their own features, so they make it sort of flashier, more sort of intentionally engaging, like an app or a video game. And, because they're really trying to show themselves off. Whereas something like Lichess that's completely open source, managed by volunteers, sort of optimized for efficiency and for functionality, it's not really about the bells and whistles. It doesn't really show itself off very well or sort of market itself very well. It just sort of has all the features there. And it just assumes that you'll figure out how to use them all. So anyway, there's pros and cons to both, but I'm just glad to be able to introduce you guys.
Well, Alex, other than you, my other advisor for this tournament has been Atticus, and Atticus is a fan of Lichess. He thinks it is the best of all the software systems. He just enjoys games there, enjoys your tournaments. He says it's extremely easy to use. So, and it's nice when you have these advisors built into your own family.
Right, exactly.
And I have several built into my family, but Atticus has been the most interested, and I appreciate that. I think he's listening in today.
Okay, awesome. I just saw someone else join the call here. I believe, let's see, is this one of our scheduled guests here? Oh, is this Avery? I don't see, he's not connected with audio yet, but this is probably Avery.
Just a quick comment. The game we're currently watching is by far the best game we've seen so far. I mean, both of these players look like competent 1400 level players. It's a nice Sicilian, complicated pawn structure. I don't want to get too much into it because we're about to do something else, but this is a really nice looking game.
Well, we've been watching both of these players, Tyler and Riley, for since the beginning of the tournament. They've both been playing very interesting.
Right. Yeah, both of these players would be at home in our events.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I want to reiterate, standing invitation to all DeSoto County players of any level to participate in the Memphis Chess Club online tournaments on Lee Chess. It's just a matter of joining the Memphis Chess Club team on Lee Chess. So you can just search Memphis Chess Club, just like you found the DeSoto County Schools team. You can join the Memphis Chess Club team and join our weekly tournaments on Mondays and on Saturdays. We just had one last night, a really fun team battle against teams from Alabama and Louisiana and Illinois
and Brazil.
So those are always fun. And Atticus, Emily's son, plays in those, and he's played in some of our other online tournaments. So those tournaments are nice and big too. I mean, they're about the size of this tournament, except they're twice a week, every week. So yeah, okay. So if this is Avery that's connected to the call, it looks like his audio is not connected yet. So, well, his video is also not connected, but it doesn't look like his audio is connected at all. So
I have sent Avery a text message and he has not responded yet, but it may be he has not responded because he's trying to figure out how to solve his computer problems.
right, I bet he'll figure it out. Avery is,
I think I have a lot of faith too.
There's a connect to audio button that you might have to press depending on your Zoom settings. And then he'll want to make sure once he gets in to turn on his video so that he'll show up in the display in the stream. Because I have non-video participants disabled.
He can also call me or call you, I'm sure, and you talk him through it.
well, anyway, as we wait for Avery to get connected here, yeah, Jonathan was pointing out that this is a very interesting and close game that we're watching here. So Black is currently up on, but it looks like White is up on Black, and then definitely anything can happen. Yeah, Jonathan is pointing out that Black's light squared bishop is well placed to sort of influence some of the weak light squares around White's king that could end up becoming a factor later. Meanwhile, White's pawn structure is potentially a little bit healthier. Black's got like a weak A pawn, and his C pawns are also weak. So there's pros and cons to both sides' position here, and definitely anything can happen. What other games do we have going on, Jonathan? I want to see how the standings are looking here. Okay, so already this round is like more than half of the games have concluded. So we're way ahead of schedule here. We're way ahead of schedule. Yeah, what else do we have here? So we've
Black's
got
up a piece here.
Black is up a piece.
Something like F3, bishop takes H3.
Right.
This looks really rough.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff. Very comfortable position for Black. Forget this player's name, Buntley. Towery from DeSoto Central. That's Buntley.
I don't know about taking. I mean, Black can basically play anything here because he's up a piece, but I think F3 and bishop takes H3 is much more natural. But either way, I mean, like I said, Black can play basically anything here.
I like taking pieces.
I mean, I like those kind of closed clamp King's Indian style positions. So, but taking is fine.
Like you said, Black kind of has this choice.
I've always liked the King's Indian opening myself. Speaking of Atticus, he played it a lot as a young student.
Nice. I only recently found out why openings like the King's Indian and Queen's Indian and Enzo Indian are called Indian openings. And the reason is why, well, first of all, chess comes from India. And the version of chess that was played in India before it was sort of Europeanized, the pawns could only go one square. And so all those openings, like the King's Indian, they involve not moving your pawns 2 squares into the center, but moving them just 1 square, and like for a fianchetto. And so those were openings that you could use in the Indian form of chess. And so a lot of Indian chess players used those because they had already been playing those openings even in the Indian form of chess. And so when they played the European version of chess that we all now know and love, they could sort of reuse the same Indian openings. That's why they're called that. It's kind of interesting chess history. That Europeanization of chess from the Indian version, like took place over many hundreds of years in the middle of the second millennium AD. Well, I mean, really, I mean, the transition from Indian chess to European chess took place like roughly between 1000 and 1500. So interesting sort of evolution of the game there.
Yeah, it's worth remembering that chess, you know, we call this game just chess, but there's a whole family of chess games. There's Chinese chess and Japanese Shunki and Japanese chess, which is shogi, which I've been playing a bunch of recently. I'm terrible at it, but some chess skill does transfer over, so I'm not a complete beginner.
Hey, Avery, are you connected now? Can you hear us? It looks like the caller that's connected here has the audio connected, but I don't hear any voice yet.
Alex, he may be trying to call or text you directly on your number
Okay, I'll keep my cell phone handy and see.
for some advice.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a call or text yet, but
I think I'm starting to strongly favor white in this other game. Materials even. The C pawn is kind of a target. Both players have holes around the king now, but now that we're getting into the end game, it's probably less relevant. But just simple moves like rook c3, getting up on c6. I think white is better.
White is better at this point for sure. All right. So yeah, I haven't gotten a call or text from Avery yet, but hopefully we can have our little chess chat with him soon enough here. I'm pretty sure I first met Avery at a DeSoto County Schools tournament, or it might have even been one of the other MSCA tournaments like in Water Valley. But yeah, I met Avery, I think pretty soon after I moved to Memphis in 2016. So it's been a while. I remember when he was a little whippersnapper. He was a big whippersnapper.
Yeah, Avery grew up at going through Pleasant Hill Elementary, where they had a much loved chess program, and their spotlight teacher that really supported chess is Ann Cagle, but also Mike Stewart helped there an awful lot at the time Avery was young.
Cool.
Mike takes a lot of credit for Avery too.
There you go. Yeah, totally.
Of course, I take credit for Avery. Everybody that's ever been involved with Avery takes credit for Avery. So Avery, you can have some of the credit. Only what's left over though.
I like that. And Avery's mom too. I mean, I remember her.
I agree. Love her dearly.
Here at the helping out.
And if I take a little too much credit, she'll be texting me or messaging me. But she will let me have some of the credit.
I forget his mom's name. Emily, what is her name?
Miss Kristen Gaines.
Kristen, right? Kristen, right? Kristen's great. Does a lot of help directing and organizing, co-directing.
She does. She is often one of our, we call them at our tournaments, the people that help the tournament director, or we usually call them greeters.
Yeah.
They don't have to be chess players, but their main job is to smile at children and say, okay, did you take their score sheets, their reporting sheets from the boards and say, okay, is it filled out correctly? Did you win? Yes, but you'll get them next time, right? Those people do not need to be able to take chess, but they are extremely valuable. And we need people who will volunteer to do that job.
Totally. And people like you, Emily, and Jeff, who will conscript people like that. I mean, it's just like another sort of unseen organizing task that contributes to those how well those tournaments run is the wrangling of those breeders and getting them to do that. It's an important thing.
I've said for many years that to run a chess tournament takes a village of people.
Yeah.
And it really does, because you need the tournament director, but you also need TDs out there calling games, especially in a 4th grade tournament. We do that a little bit more lovingly than we do at the high school level. But you need the people running the computer input and the greeters who are encouraging the students. But then I ran a speech and debate tournament. And I found out that you need a small city to run a speech and debate tournament. So if you are ever interested in broadening yourselves, I need lots of volunteers for other events too.
Well, when I was teaching at Douglas K-8 school here in Memphis, we the Shelby County schools here actually organized some chess and speech and debate tournaments here. There was like a little like Grand Prix of like three tournaments throughout the school year where each school that participated would field a chess team for the chess tournament and a speech and debate team for the speech and debate tournament. And then the like final standings of the Grand Prix would be like the combination of the school's chess results and the speech and debate results. And so that was fascinating to do that because, you know, like the chess kids would sort of like mingle with the speech and debate kids. And yeah, I saw how many like, you know, volunteer speech and debate judges or whatever had to be involved with that. Yeah, that's like even like way more than chess.
Yes, it is. It's like a small city. You got the village and you have the village running, and then you move up to the small city running the tournament, the speech and debate tournament. But that's a wonderful idea. At some point, I would love to share names with you so I could reach out to that person and talk to them about their logistics. Because, you know, and also a lot of kids who play chess are also interested in speech and debate. They're both small, relatively niche clubs at a high school compared to the football team, but they're important opportunities for kids. And they are groups that do enjoy hanging out together too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. What's going on in this game here?
Black dropped a piece.
Dropped a piece. Okay, so now this is looking very promising for white, for Tyler.
There we go.
Now we've got another version of Avery on the call. Let's see if
Avery is young, and he has experienced stubbornness throughout his young life. That's probably what makes him such an outstanding player. And you know, like many men, he just does not want to ask for help. I mean, that's not the truth. But
this is forced mate after rook ch at rook ch5 and rook 5h6.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Guess not.
Avery, if you can hear us, just like whenever you connect here, say something so we can know that your audio is connected, but seems like you're still working out the kinks there. What other games we have going on here, Jonathan? Is this the last one?
There's two more. Black won the rook, apparently. Let's see, how'd that happen? Oh, the rook got trapped in the corner, so now black's up a whole rook.
All right, so black was winning that game anyway. We know.
Yeah.
And looking at the standings here, so Preston and Joel have 4 out of 4. And then assuming that Tyler beats Riley in this game, then Tyler will have 4 out of 4. And then they will be the only perfect scores going into the last round. But like I was sort of fearing, that means that with 3 perfect scores going into the last round, that means there could still be 2 perfect scores even after the last round, right? 2 5 out of 5s, which, okay, it's not the end of the world, but one of them is going to be the champion, and the other one is going to get second place on tie breaks. So
And they will learn a wonderful lesson from that and learn how to take it gracefully, as a true leader does.
yeah, I'm sure they'll be fun.
That'll be fine. These are high school students. They can understand that they beat everybody sitting in front of them, and we're proud of them.
Yeah, well, there you go. All right, so, and these other games that are going on, let's take a quick peek at them and see what's going on. So this is the one we looked at already, right?
Yeah, White won the piece earlier, and this, I mean, I don't see really any decent chances here for Black, especially with this inactive rook on b6. King e6, bishop takes, threatens mate with bishop e5 or pawn e5 for that matter. If the king goes to the back rank, though, I mean, this is just bishop takes on f6 regard. Wait, this is forced mate. e5 takes, pawn takes mate. Let's see if White finds it.
Yeah, I would say that e5 check is an attractive move for White.
Yep, he found it.
Okay, so that means that Tyler is going to end up one of the 3 perfect scores going into the final round. And it'll be interesting to see what the pairings are for the final round between these 3 perfect scores, who gets paired with who, because between Preston and Joel and Tyler, usually it would be the top 2 players would be paired with each other going into the last round, but Lichess may do it its own quirky way. We'll see. All right, so this game is also just winning for Black, but we'll see.
I think Lichess uses like the Swiss rules for FIDE instead of USCF or something. So I've seen some weird behaviors, but they seem consistent.
Yeah, I'm not always able to predict the pairings very well.
Right. I've always had like almost perfect prediction for USCF pairings because I've spent over 20 years staring at standing sheets. Right. So.
Right. Same thing. I'm pretty good with pairings in my head, but usually just pairings are a little bit quirky. All right, and then there's one more game besides this and
this is it.
One?
This is the last one.
Oh, this is just the last game going.
Yeah.
Hey, Avery, what's up, man? Good. So you're having trouble connecting to the Zoom call?
He should be able to call in with his phone.
Yeah, try that. I mean, we've got time, if you want to call back, and I don't think it's going to really work for me to put you on speakerphone here and have you on the phone because it's not going to pick up that audio very well, but just keep trying, and whenever you connect, we'll have our chat. Okay, dude. Looking forward to talking to you soon. Hey, man. Yeah, I don't think the speakerphone would work, but we'll see if he can connect. Thanks, Emily.
He should be able to call a number. If you look at that invitation message you sent, there's like a phone call-in number somewhere on it. Right. I've never used it, but
he said he's just trying to restart his internet. That works, but
I see.
Okay, so this is the last game. Yeah, Black is definitely totally winning here. Black's up a rook. Black also has a pass pawn on b3 that is going to cost White his bishop at least. Um, so, but black is making sure to take his time and be extra careful here. Towery, I believe that's the player playing black. That's their name. We had a little accident with black's bishop, it looks like, but I don't think that's going to make a difference because as soon as white takes that bishop, then black can just play b2 and make another queen. Right, simple as that. All right, so that didn't end up making a difference. In fact, it just kind of sped up the process because now once black gets a queen, then it's really going to be curtains for white. So assuming this game wraps up in the next 5 minutes, and then the next round starts by 12:25, we're going to be almost an hour ahead of schedule, which is nice because it'll give everyone time to celebrate the final results and get ready for the end of the school day.
That's exactly right. That's a wonderful way. We like to run ahead of schedule. That's always better than the alternative.
Yeah, totally. I remember some of those chess and speech and debate tournaments that I was mentioning, they were constantly running late because of all the complicated logistics, especially on the debate end of things. And so, I remember us getting back on the school bus, like, way late. Yeah, this is a nice, pleasant change of pace.
But I'm also thinking of it as what a great combination of resources because it's expensive to take a big bus all the way across the state of Mississippi or Tennessee. And if you can put two small teams on the same bus and they're all good friends anyway, you right there have cut the cost of travel in half.
Yeah, right. And I also just like promoting, the mingling between the chess kids and the speech and debate kids because some of them maybe don't run in the same circles and some of them do, but some of them don't. And so it's nice to sort of meet new people that way instead of just like your normal chess crew or whatever. All right, so white is still really wriggling on the hook here, which is good. That's what you're supposed to do. But black is also playing well. So black is definitely making progress, right? And black needs to continue moving their king closer, probably need to collect one or both of these white pawns, and then execute the queen and king checkmate, which I assume black is going to be able to do without too much trouble. As I mentioned earlier, with the king and queen checkmate, you've still got to watch out for stalemate. So you've still got to exercise a little bit of care, but as long as you do that.
Right. I mean, both of these players, I think, are beyond the level where queen and king stalemates really happen. Many years ago, I had a girl who was playing in the grade level championships here in Memphis. She was really strong. She was rated like 950 or 1,000 in 4th grade. And we discovered for the first time in that tournament that she did not know how to do king and queen versus king. She'd always checkmated her opponent in the middle game. So she'd done really well, but she just never learned how to do that checkmate. So, because I just thought, oh, she's going to win. She'll win the tournament. And then every time I looked back, it was still just king and queen versus king. So sometimes you just forget the basics or just never learned them. And so you get surprising results sometimes.
Right. Same thing with the next most complicated ending, which is king and rook against king, and that's sort of significantly more difficult. And I've seen, even strong players, sort of mess that up, at least when they're low on time. So, when you play online games, then, I get these end games all the time, like king and queen against king or king and rook against king. It's just that I usually get them when I have 3 or 4 seconds left. And, and my opponent does too, or my opponent has 30 seconds and I only have 3 or 4 seconds, but I have a king and a queen against the king. And that's the real test of whether you know it stone cold, whether you can execute it basically playing instantaneously every time.
Right. I usually, like, even with younger players, maybe first or second grade, I normally grill in the king and queen to the point where if I give them 1 second on the clock with a 5-second delay, they should be able to do it every time, because it's just algorithmic, right? You do the steps in order, and same with the king and rook.
Yeah, it's a good point that, just like in any sport, in chess, you have to practice very basic fundamental things until you can do them perfectly and quickly and sort of automatically, just like a ball player has to, practice whatever, their free throw or passing or dribbling or whatever, until they can do it without thinking. And so it's not just about like learning very complicated things. Sometimes it's just about, doing simple things, but doing them very well and reliably without much effort, so that you can, use that effort to pay attention to other things.
Right. My whole theory of learning is like the part of you, the subconscious part of you that doesn't think or talk, is actually smarter than the part of you that thinks and perceives the world. And so you get better at things by becoming acclimated enough to that activity so that you can spend your conscious thought and perception on new, more complicated tasks. Like, you can't really be a strong chess player if you still have to actively look for forks and checks. To strong players, those things just show up automatically. So they're doing the sort of second order analysis. How do I set up a position where those kinds of tactics show up, instead of just looking for those tactics to show up magically in the position?
And even on a more basic level, I mean, someone who's just learned how the pieces move and is like consciously actively thinking about where can my knight go every game, they're not going to be able to play as well as someone who has already unconsciously internalized those things and doesn't have to think about them actively, but can just sort of think about like what's a good move instead of just like what are my legal options.
Right.
That framework is applicable for any level of player.
Right. I mean, there are things that like a strong player can see automatically. Like 3 or 4 years ago, I had a lesson with an international master where I played a game where it was a complicated bishop and 2-pawn versus knight and 2-pawn ending. And I had this little voice in the back of my head that said that I had a way to win, but it took me 50 minutes of sitting and staring at the same position to find the correct evaluation. And I ended up winning that game. I got home and put it in the computer, and I was really proud because the computer was like, yeah, you can win. This is the only way to win, and I found the right plan. And I showed it to this international master, and he found it in 15 seconds. He was just like, oh yeah, you just do this, and then you set up your bishop on this square, and you win the resulting endgame. And so it was just that kind of automatic pattern recognition. It took me 50 minutes, and it took him less than 1. But we still found the same moves. But it's the sort of higher level. When you can do the lower level things automatically, you can do the harder stuff by actually thinking about that. And it's sort of speed. That's why a grandmaster can play 50 games at the same time and win all 50 of them. Right? It's like even his 3-second analysis is backed by tens of thousands of games of pattern recognition.
I'm just noticing that in the comments, someone said move. I assume they mean king. Again, the players themselves can't see these comments. These are just the spectator comments. But someone said move the king. If you move the king here, pardon me, then it's a stalemate. That's actually very bad advice from the spectator.
Right.
Unless they're intentionally getting bad advice.
Yeah, black should have just moved the queen away and then brought the king in and then checkmated. Black is calculating, but if black had a better fundamental understanding of the position, he could do it algorithmically. Put the king on the back rank, move the queen away, without thinking about it.
I will say that even doing something too slow is better than doing it wrong and getting a stalemate here.
I agree, certainly. If black doesn't know how to do this automatically, he should take his time. But at this level, you should know. It's one of the key things that you should know how to do.
Like like the student you mentioned, Jonathan, who had actually gotten pretty good without, ever even learning how to do king and queen against king. It's an interesting, point that like players can actually make a lot of progress without knowing some of these basic fundamental things. But sooner or later, you're going to get this kind of situation, and then it's going to come back and bite you if you never learn how to do it. So furthermore, I think that even aside from like whether you're going to directly use this pattern in a real game, it will improve your understanding generally of how the pieces work together and coordinate, and it will generally improve your visualization and calculation to learn these things. So that goes for all patterns. Like learning a pattern is not just about the pattern itself. It's a way that your brain will generalize lessons from that pattern and apply them in other situations.
Right. That's why Capablanca used to start with the end game. Right. He said if you're teaching a student, there's no point in even setting up the full position until they can do all the basic end games and how the pieces interact with one another in restricted positions. Because if you don't know how to do all that, then you're just kind of randomly moving pieces around. Like Kappa's whole theoretical teaching style was just like the end games come first. If you can't play the ending, the rest of the game is just random noise. I don't go that far, but Capablanca certainly did, and he was a world champion. So
an interesting perspective in any of it. All right, so we've got three going to the last round here, which will start in 4 minutes at like 12:32, I think. Going into the last round, we have 3 players with 4 out of 4. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many?
11 with 3.
Oh, no. Sorry. Only one of those players has 3.5. And the rest of those.
Nobody has 3.5. So we have 7 and 4. We have 11 threes.
You could skip to the next page.
Yeah.
So we've got, what did you say? We've got how many players with
11.
with 3?
11 with 3.
Oh, 11 with 3.
3 with
And
4.
3 with 4. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
1, 2.5. Have there been any more draws? There was one more. It was another insufficient material draw. King, knight, and king. So there have been no like agreed draws or repetitions. It's all just been insufficient material.
No stalemates either, which is a little surprising to me.
Yeah, certainly.
I would have thought that a stalemate would be by far the most common way for a draw to be reached, but not so today.
Well, they might be at the level where everyone's too good to accidentally stalemate, but they're not good enough to try to encourage being stalemated with like that desperado tactic that we saw earlier. So there's like a gap where stalemates just stop happening. And then there's a level where they start happening again.
All right, I'm going to run to the bathroom again real quick.
Sure.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, if you're currently watching the stream or hanging out in the chat, I see we have 15 viewers. So feel free to come on down to the chess club at some point. We're not that far from you, right? We're just right over the state line. Come on down and hang out. You can see the club in Alex's camera at the moment. It's a nice place. You've got a big basement for a playing hall. We're not using it much right now because of COVID, but eventually we'll start having some big tournaments down there. We're open Wednesday through Sunday. We're only closed on Monday and Tuesday, which is why there's no one in there at the moment. But normally it's pretty busy in there, especially in the evenings. It's going to be more busy, of course, once the restrictions end. So there's always people in there playing games of all levels. There's beginners playing. Sometimes there's much stronger people playing. So if you're ever coming by, feel free to stop by and check out the club.
Jonathan, do you see Avery there?
His camera is not on. He's not in.
So we can hear him. Can we hear him?
I can't. It's just me,
Okay.
you, and Alex.
Okay.
All right, so the second round just started a few seconds ago. We've got a few more comments in the chat. We're still up at 15 viewers. Not everyone has an account. You do have to have a Twitch account to comment in the Twitch chat, but feel free to comment. Oh, cool. Yeah, Atticus is watching on the site, apparently. He's commenting in the spectator rooms, which is fine. The players can't see that, so feel free to chat in the spectator room. Let's check out this game. Top rated players.
So Preston came into this tournament with like an 1800 rating. And after winning his 4 games so far, look at his rating now, you know, like it's swung a lot, right? It's swung like 200 points or whatever. So that's because he's still provisional. Unfortunately, once your rating gets established, it cannot swing that much. I wish it could. I wish I could have just like one good tournament and gain 200 points. But unfortunately, it moves very slowly.
You can still do that. You just have to have just an incredible performance against a field of very strong opponents. I think when I was a kid, I went from 1200 to 1450 in one tournament at nationals. Because I got like 6 out of 7 and beat a bunch of 1600s, but those are almost impossible to find or to do. I mean, if you played in a tournament full of international masters and you got an even score, you'd be celebrating, right? But you're not going to get like 6 out of 7. There we go. Now Avery's on the call.
Oh, hello, Avery.
His audio is still working on.
Yeah.
There
we go.
Avery, can you hear us?
All right, yeah, I can hear you. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Avery.
All right, I'm going to switch to the display view so it'll just be us on the stream.
Thank you for working so hard, Avery.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on, but got it all covered now.
You did it. Great. Well, Avery, I've already talked some about you in all positive ways that other than I think I did refer to you as stubborn once. Is that fair?
That's moderately fair.
Okay. Well, but you are the only high school player who was undefeated in this tournament. And that is quite a record. That was quite a run for the 4 years that you were in high school. And in one level, none of us were surprised because we all knew that you were very good and that you played kind of at a level a little above everybody, or a lot above a lot of people. But still, anybody can have a bad moment. And you did not have a bad moment at any of those tournaments. You ended up victorious 3 of those 4 times. You lost to a tiebreaker once, which we've discussed several times today. But Avery, just share with us what you would like people to know about your chess experience.
Well, I don't know. Chess has pretty much always been, something I've done. I started when I was about 5 or 6 years old. So it was just something that I picked up really early on, and I saw it and I was like, I want to learn to play that. So I learned how to play, and I guess I was naturally good somehow. So then, you get books and you use the internet and you study, and you find out new things, and chess is just like infinitely, there's an infinite amount of stuff to learn with it. So I mean, you can play it at any age and still be like getting better. So,
Avery, tell us a little bit more about like how you have learned like on your own compared to how you've learned from other players or coaches, and how you've sort of gotten something from both of those.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously learning on your own. When I first started playing, I actually had to teach myself, and I used just books, just reading, and you just learn like different openings and stuff like that. That's how I first started to learn. But then you get other people, sort of like grandmasters or just anyone with any chess experience that show you things that they've seen in their own games and in other games that they've seen. And they kind of just help you through different key moments throughout, your chess game. And then when you repeat it enough times, you start to see it in your own games once you start playing. Because it's like it's completely different whenever you're practicing and you're in a tournament game. You just look at stuff completely different. So I guess just repetition, uh, especially with another person, is always helpful.
And,
So
and like when you're playing in a tournament, like is that something you would do after an individual game where you would talk about the game afterward with your opponent and like see what went wrong?
Most definitely, I've done that many times. I've done that at this exact tournament before, where you get done with the game, and if you recorded your moves and your notation, then you get the guy if they're friendly after the guy. After you and the guy or the girl finish the game, you ask if you want to go over the game. That way, both sides of the board can improve. So, because like that's the best way to learn from chess is looking at games that either you won or you lost. So, yeah, always looking over the game helps a lot, especially with new players. Get done with one.
And you're now also working as a coach yourself. Tell us a little bit about how you got into teaching chess and what your experience has been with that.
So yes, I've been teaching for almost 2 years now. I first started teaching by, well, originally I guess it was DeSoto Central, the school that I went to. They wanted me to start teaching the middle school and also the high school while I was still in high school. So because like I'd gone there all my life, so they wanted me to teach with them to help the kids get better, of course. And then also at Pleasant Hill, I started teaching there. But I mean, teaching chess it's not easy, but it's not hard. It's definitely something that you got to like know what you're talking about to play. But I don't really know where I'm going with this, but I had a plan.
Well, would you, Avery, was it Miss McDaniel and maybe Miss Cagle that called you back to the middle school in Pleasant Hill
Yes,
to
yes.
help teach? So, they knew you well, and they had invested in time along the way in you.
Yeah.
And then also Mike Stewart was a coach at Pleasant Hill. He was, an assistant. He was a volunteer coach during that time too. But do you remember how Mike might have helped you, or what were his classes like?
Mike Stewart was the first real coach that I ever had. That I guess you could say was a real coach, and the biggest thing that he always did, and I'll always remember, was every time we had practice or every time right before a tournament that we would play, he would show up and always would have a bag full of different printed off chess puzzles. And that was his thing, where he just had papers with tons and tons of chess puzzles on them, and he'd give them out right at the start of practice or right before we started playing a tournament, just to give us a little bit of a warm up. So that was his thing, and I would get puzzles from all the time, and even after class sometimes I would try to get some extra puzzles. So I mean, I've just seen a lot of positions from Mike Stewart. But
tell us a little bit more, Avery, about why you were so into the puzzles as opposed to just playing games. What do you think that the puzzles have to offer that you can't get from just playing?
Well, I think the biggest thing is when people see puzzles, they look at it and they're looking at a position and they know while they're practicing, they know that, hey, there's an opportunity to win in this moment, right? Like there's a checkmate, there's a win a piece, there's whatever it is, right? When you're playing a game, there's never a part where they tell you, hey, you have a good point where you have a good move at this position that if you make it, you can end up winning the game. No one ever tells you that. in chess, like while you're playing. It's doesn't happen. So I think whenever he would give us puzzles all the time, it was really just a clue, as in saying, hey, like this could be your position at any moment. So every time I would look at a puzzle, it's the same time, or it's the same way that I would look at any position on the board at any time. So no matter what the position is, no how many, not doesn't matter how many moves we are into the game, I'm always going to look at every position like it's a puzzle, whether there is a win or not.
And so talking about your experience, like coming up as a player, were you one of those kids who, you know, really hated to lose and almost was like a bad sport, and you know, chess kind of had to teach you how to be a better loser, or what?
Chess has done a lot of things for me outside of just like making me money or winning tournaments and stuff like that. It's taught me a lot of life lessons because not gonna lie, when I was younger and I was like this prodigy that was just really great at chess, it got to my head. It got to my head when I was around like 11 or 12, I want to say, and I was just really cocky, and it was not good. I'm not proud of it, but there was this one moment where I was really cocky before a tournament, and I was telling people how I was going to win the whole thing and blah blah blah, and then I ended up losing, and it was just the most embarrassing moment of my entire life. So from that point on, I stopped being cocky, at least to a moderate level. Because it was just so embarrassing, and I think that's something that chess can do for you that not a lot of people understand. It's just like the manners of chess is just really important.
Amen. Good to hear that, Avery. Thank you. That decorum is an important thing that we want to give kids. They're never going to learn it if they don't have an opportunity to learn, and they're never going to learn how to lose if they don't have an opportunity to lose.
Exactly.
So, and sometimes it's hard to give smart kids that have a passion about something an opportunity to lose. You have to create those opportunities. So I'm glad you capitalized on those. You know, Avery, yesterday we talked a little bit about the fact that you just didn't love 7th grade English, for example.
I don't think I like English, but
yeah, there were certain subjects that you just kind of had some sort of, you just did not enjoy them.
Yeah.
But yet you found time to study chess, but just didn't seem to have the time to do your English homework. But yet you stayed at school and you graduated. You didn't want to kind of explain that to us from an adult's perspective. Now you're a very young adult, but you are one now. If you look back those middle school years or the early high school years, you know, what was the rub? I mean, did you just hate school, or what was the rub? What was it?
I guess the thing for me was, like, now that I'm out of school and I look back on things, I guess the whole thing for me was, I was obviously a smart kid. I just naturally was. I was blessed enough to, have an amazing brain. But in school, like, it was just they're giving you stuff, and it's complicated sometimes. Because it is school, it's not always going to be easy, but it's sometimes complicated, and you don't want to do it. But me playing chess, I like complicated stuff usually, but I guess it's different whenever someone's giving you stuff to do, whereas with chess, it's something that I wanted to do.
Did chess motivate you to stay in school? I mean, I don't know that you were ever your mother would not have ever allowed you to drop out of school, but was there a motivator? What was there a motivating factor in chess that eventually played out in school, or was there not?
I think there was definitely points where I was getting worried that I was going to get kicked off the chess team during high school because grade point averages. I think chess got considered a sport.
That's right, it did.
Last year, I think.
Yeah, and the Mississippi High School Activity Association has officially recognized it as an activity. And so now all those rules that apply to athletes apply to chess players. And honestly, not very many chess players are impacted by those rules, but you were one we were worried about.
I was I was definitely targeted, I believe, with that. But no, I
You were
managed to.
targeted. I don't know. That might be a little strong.
No, targeted sounds
Okay.
about right. I had basically the same experience. I mean, I'm in the same boat, right? Like, I was super good at chess as a kid. I thought I was the best player in the world. And then my dad took me to the Memphis Chess Club with actual grown-ups, and I got smashed. And then I was like, wait, maybe I'm not as good at this game as I thought I was. That was a really rough experience for me. And I probably would have dropped out of high school because I was really bored and not interested. But I had to keep going. You know, my chess teammates depended on me. My mom probably would have killed me if I dropped out, but that might
That's
not have
well,
stopped
good,
me.
Jonathan.
But I
Good to
mean,
hear that there aren't very many of y'all out there, but there are a few, and those few have so much potential that the effort we put into having a chess club is the payoff is so worth it.
I mean, you're
Because
specifically
Avery,
working with gifted kids, right? Like those are the kids
well,
who get bored.
that is part of my job. But, you know, I also say lots of times that those that are identified as gifted, we don't own chess. We want to share that with the world. And we've had plenty of kids on chess teams over the years that were not identified as intellectually gifted. Maybe they have other gifts and we just couldn't get them identified in this program, but they were definitely strong enough to make the 10-man chess team. And so
Right, right.
we've tried always to be very, when it came to teams and tournaments, we've always tried to be very inclusive and not exclusive. So
Yeah.
the to make a certain program, it's kind of like making the basketball team. You know, you do have to be one of the better ones, or you're not going to be there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's plenty of kids that graduate high school because if they drop out, they can't go to football practice or playing football games anymore,
that's
right?
exactly
Like,
right.
it's exactly the same kind of thing. You have to be motivated somehow to bother to show up every day.
Right.
And if you
And
feel
you
like all
learn,
of your classes are easy, chess is a really good
mhm,
way to stay motivated.
right, and that team camaraderie. And I can remember back in middle school speaking with Avery about his a certain English teacher who was trying to impose her definition of organizational skills onto Avery, and he very much resisted that idea of, you know, what she considered to be organization skills. You know, if he got his homework turned in, she should be happy because most of the time he didn't. But
Well, he sounds
she
like
was
me. Yeah, that's
Avery.
like.
Avery, do you agree? I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to speak for you, but you know, I
Uh,
remember you from the third grade on. So
I mean, I can't say that I can confirm nor deny these claims for legal reasons, but I will say you are headed in the right direction. That does sound familiar.
well, every time I've a couple of times a year I've gotten a chance to visit with you, and you've always been just a pure pleasure. I've always enjoyed you as a little child and as a older child, middle school child, and as a teenager. I just always thought you were top notch. But
Well,
I do know that you were a challenge to some teachers who recognized your potential that you weren't quite living up to. But I'm also happy that Jonathan's chiming in here too, because there are not a lot of y'all out there. But for that reason, we need to have chess tournaments. Just like I'm all for football, but I'm not. But I'm also for chess tournaments, and I'm for speech and
Right.
debate, and knowledge bowl, and gaming, and
Mhm.
anything that helps a child find what they do well and learn how to do it better.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry to interrupt. When I was a kid, I was always a good student, but like I think socially, I struggled a lot as a kid, and it was hard for me to like relate to other kids and just like be a normal, nice, civil person to other
Mhm.
people. And I think that um, chess helped me a lot with that. You know, like what we're talking about, learning how to lose and like realizing that you're not like the smartest, coolest person that's ever lived. You know, because there's like other people who can actually just destroy you at chess or whatever. You know, and so yeah, I think that helped me a lot, just socially. So yeah, I think that chess has a lot of different benefits for a lot of different kinds of kids. You know,
It does. It does.
yeah.
And I agree that social aspect to meet people who think like you do, that and to be able to look across a big room. We don't have that advantage today, but at the county tournament, normally we can look across the room and you can see someone that you maybe used to go to church with or have done things with at the mall. And suddenly you have a connection to that person that you were unaware of. And that person will go on to be your college roommate.
Yes, yeah, and even in these online tournaments, you know, like we've had a lot of kids from Arkansas participating in our tournaments recently, and then some of them actually participated in our like Zoom chess camp that we ran that Jonathan and I taught at. And for these kids here in Memphis to be able to like, you know, interact virtually, over Zoom or just over Lee Chess with these kids from Arkansas, it just sort of shows them that there's kids like them everywhere, that they're not alone. You know, whatever whatever their struggles are, whatever their strengths and weaknesses.
That is so right. That they were not alone.
And they can learn and grow alongside with them. You know.
That is so right. We want our kids to know that they're not alone. And I applaud these virtual opportunities. They're kind of foreign to me. And because I spent my years of education, I was just so happy when the internet began to exist during the last years that I was still in the classroom. So my brain just doesn't naturally think in a virtual world. But I'm so happy that there are young folks like you and Jonathan, Alex, out there that can help the Averys of the world who do think in a virtual
How old are you, Avery?
Right?
How old are you?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
19.
I'm 28. When I was 6, we had an ancient computer with a dial-up modem that screamed at me every time I would get online. But I did every day. So I spent my whole life on the computer basically. And so it's funny to see all these older educators who, now that they're forced to use stuff like Zoom and virtual classrooms, they're like fish out of water, you know. So I have
really
friends
are.
who are teachers.
This is difficult. I've been a nervous wreck over this, and I wasn't even really doing anything. I was on the phone talking to Alex, telling him what we needed him to do. But
You're doing great though, Emily. Honestly.
But this is a nerve. I've been way more nervous over this than I have over running, on-site tournaments.
Honestly, everything for this tournament has gone like better than I was expecting. Like there haven't been hardly any technical issues at all. I mean, there may have been some technical issues on the front end that prevented some people from joining the tournament in the first place. But like now that the tournament is up and running, like it's going pretty smoothly. I'm not getting like frantic troubleshooting calls or texts from coaches or anything.
And I didn't want to cut off our conversation or anything, but we have a clear winner. The third guy with 4 ended up losing. And so we have a bunch of people with 4 and only 1-5 at the end of the event.
That's rare, but that's wonderful.
Preston Reapers from DeSoto Central he's already secured his spot as our champion this year. Congrats to him.
Avery, are you still there?
Yeah, who was it?
It's Preston Reapers. He goes to DeSoto Central. Do you know him, Avery?
Yeah, I know who that is. Yeah.
Avery, what is your thought of the tie break? The fact that we can only play a certain number of rounds, and then we get to the end of them, some people are tied, and the computer has to decide it. As a player that's played that recently, or even as a child, the emotional. Did it traumatize you as a child to be in a tiebreaker? I know it did. It traumatized many children.
It definitely was an incident at one point where I was not happy with the result after the tie breaks. I personally don't like tie breaks, but I do understand like why we kind of have to use them, and I feel like even the people who made tie breaks don't really agree with the tie breaks all the time. But if we had it my way, there would definitely be an extra game. You play.
That's what I'm talking about.
You don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, but the buses have to roll. We got to get on those buses.
Exactly. So,
but I will say that I have 3 sons who grew up in this tournament, and they all agree with you, and they hate their mother and think that I should come up with another way of doing this. But sorry, they've had to get over it. So
yeah, I mean, there's just not enough time in the day. So.
All right. I don't know if Mike Stewart, his last
Alex,
message to me was that he wasn't able to get in. So I don't know if Mike's been trying to get in, I think. So do you see Mike by any chance, Jonathan?
He's not on the call, no. And I haven't gotten an email or anything from him. So
okay.
Well, why don't we should we let Avery continue with his Tuesday here, or we got any final Avery, you got any like final words of wisdom to share with us before we let you go?
I mean, through chess, I guess. Wow, you really put me on the spot when you got to say words of wisdom. But I guess you know, I've played chess pretty much all my life, and it's just something that's that was for me. And now, I noticed a big thing about chess that a lot of people stop playing it for is because it's got its own little thing where people kind of make fun of you, or they tease you about being a chess player and stuff like that. For me, everybody goes through that, I think, and I definitely went through it, and I still go through it now. But you know, you just gotta not care and just know that if it's something you enjoy doing it. So just keep doing it, and don't worry about what anyone else says. Because I mean, I still have buddies today that are some of my best friends that still joke around and be like, "Yeah, you play chess though," but I'm like, I don't care. It was even my senior quote was, "I play chess," just because like I don't care if it's something that makes me happy. It's something I like doing, and I make money off of it too. So, but yeah,
The last laugh, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
but my words of advice for anyone struggling through something like that is, if it's something that you generally like doing, then just do it. And even if it's not chess, it could be anything, whether it's cooking, or if it's some different sport, or just whatever you want to do. If it's something that you like doing, just do it, and
Yeah.
don't let
And
anyone do otherwise.
yeah, I know. Like there are kids on the football team that get teased for being dumb jocks when they're not dumb.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot of people have to deal with stereotypes. I'm proud that you stood up to it and you did it so well.
Yeah.
One more quick question, Avery. If somebody wanted to challenge you and play a game sometime, what might be a good place for them to meet up with you and maybe play a quick game of chess? Anything?
There's this one place that comes to mind. The Memphis Chess Club over in Memphis. It's a chess club, and it's pretty cool place. I've actually been starting to go over to Alex's little place over there, and I enjoy it a lot. And it's got great food. It's got good players that you can just hang out with and play some chess and eat and just have a good time. And very social place actually, which I was not expecting. I was expecting it to be like a couple of people, but no, there's actually a lot of people go by that place. So I've been trying to go as much as I can. But yeah, Memphis. Where's the
champion's mouth, guys? You heard it from the champion's mouth. Memphis Chess Club, coolest place. Meet up, play some chess and eat food.
It is really, honestly, a really nice place. I like the furniture. I like the design, and it's chess. So I mean, how could you not like it?
Yes. How can you go wrong? Exactly. Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today, Avery. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, anytime.
All right, Emily.
Thank you, Avery.
Can we let Avery go? Okay, awesome. Thanks,
Yes.
Avery. We'll see you soon, buddy.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So as Jonathan pointed out, the first place is already sewed up by Preston. And then as far as second place, how many people are tied for second place here, Jonathan?
7.
And is there anybody else that can catch up with them?
One more.
So there could be up to 8 people tied for second place.
Well, there will be 8 unless there's a draw, actually, because they both currently have 3.
Okay, let's take a look at that game and see which of those players is going to end up.
I think White's going to win. I mean, this.
Right, but Black could that, right? And meanwhile, the material's equal, so if Black just finds a way to stop mate, then he might be okay for now.
I don't see a good defensive move.
Yeah,
G7, knight h7 check.
Yeah, or queen takes f6.
Oh, that's right.
Well, that's going to end in mate, looks like. As long as White Thaddeus here can find queen g8 mate, and he'll join the 8-way tie for second place. There we go. He found it. Okay.
And the other game finished too.
tournament is over, so let's take a quick look at these final standings. Once again, Preston Reefers from DeSoto Central High School. Congrats to you, young man, for being this year's DeSoto County Schools High School champion. And congrats as well to the 8 players who tied for second place with 4 out of 5. So that's Tyler, Riley, Towery, Carson, DJ. I don't know who that player is, Joel and Thaddeus. And those players are from a variety of different schools, right? Not just DeSoto Central,
I think
South,
so.
Center Hill, well, and Olive Branch. All of the different schools, I believe, are represented up here in the top of the standings. So,
Well, I think what we may do this year is award a first place trophy. And do we need 8 second place trophies?
it looks like we need eight players tied for second. Yeah.
Okay, so we may get small trophies, but we may get some cool looking trophies with their names engraved on them.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Well, this was great. And now, as far as the team standings and like which team ended up at the top, we're going to have to spend some time calculating by hand. So I don't know.
That's
We're
expected.
probably not able to do that, announce the winners live here on air, but we'll, I'm sure you can send out an email once we finish.
We will, or you can too. Usually we look at the top 3 schools or 4 schools, and depending on how close they are, we'll, the top 3 or 4. But I look forward to finding out who they are.
Absolutely. We'll count that up and we'll send all the coaches the final team results as soon as we can. But yeah, congrats to all the winners. Thanks to everybody for participating in this sort of like exciting new online format. Again, before we go here, I just want to remind everybody that first of all, we're going to have the middle school championship and the 5th and 4th grade championship and everything coming up soon in the same online format. And in the meantime, every week, Memphis Chess Club runs 2 online tournaments just like this. If you want to get more practice, you're all invited. You're also all invited to come to the physical Memphis Chess Club here downtown, 195 Madison Avenue, and see us play some chess here. And yeah, so thanks to everybody. Thanks to Jonathan for working out all the technical aspects of this stream and our commentary and everything. Thanks to all of our guests for joining us today and doing our chess chats with us. Thanks, of course, to Emily Nelson for organizing this whole tournament in the first place, and I'm sure she has some other people to thank as well.
I just want to keep thanking those that have made this happen over time. First of all, Alex and Jonathan, thank you for making this happen, and Alex for keeping me relatively calm as the days approached. I didn't really know what to expect, but also to Jeff Bolheis and his, as she would say, the brawn behind the brains, his wonderful wife, Denise Bolheis, who have been our on-site tournament directors for at least 10 years and have gone on to do great things through Mississippi Scholastic Chess and Spread Chess all over the state, provide boards at no cost to young teams all over the state. I'm just so proud of his leadership and the fact that he's one of our DeSoto County school parents. Connie Newcomb directed our tournament for about 5 years, and one of her children played in it, and Danielle was our 2nd female champion. So she has a long history with us as well. And then Mike Stewart, who could not get logged in today, but maybe by the middle school tournament, we'll be able to overcome this handicap. He was there at the beginning with me 25 years ago to help start this tournament. And he directed the tournament for maybe 7 to 10 years. And so to those people that have put many, many hours in, thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, guys, thanks to all of you viewers for tuning in, following our Twitch stream. And we'll see you on another online tournament or another in-person tournament or another Twitch stream soon. And until then, we'll sign off. Thanks again. Have a good rest of your day.
Goodbye.
This is by far the most viewed stream we've had, so
All right.
Hopefully
onward
we'll
and
have
upward.
more of these.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, signing off then, guys.
All right.
Thanks, Jonathan.
No problem. See you later.
Yeah, bye-bye.